may not have, that he thanks his sister and his mother for calling the police and having him arrested before he actually got clean. So sometimes that tough love can hurt, but I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do in your situation. That's up to you. But oh, my heart hurts. There's no easy answers. There's no right answer. That sucks.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh.
Gina, I appreciate the call. Gina's line is going to be open 303-696-1971. So here's the delineation I want to make. I understand our individual responses to family members and to people that are facing this challenge.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about the city's response, the political response, Mayor Mike Johnston's response. You have now placed, like you just mentioned, we have now placed all these drug users into one location with like what it seems to be almost no oversight. You have people complaining about drug use in all these. You have 4,000 911 calls that have taken place at these hotels.
And if I am the staff of the hotel, if I'm the hotel manager, my staff members shouldn't be the ones responsible for whether or not you're doing drugs inside the hotel. That's not what I hired them for. None of them were hired for that specific skill set. So don't put that on my staff.
So what should we do? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has secured her first victory of the primaries, winning Washington, D.C. Her team says it's the first time a woman has won a Republican primary. Her team said it's not surprising Republicans closest to Washington dysfunction are rejecting Donald Trump and all his chaos. The former president secured about a third of the vote. His team described her win as being crowned queen of the swamp. Haley claims she's the only one who can beat incumbent Joe Biden. President Biden has signed an executive order aiming to better protect Americans' personal data. In New York, Haley Bianco explains.
That data includes everything from biometrics and health records to finances and geolocation from foreign adversaries like China and Russia. The order seeks to authorize the Attorney General and other federal agencies to prevent the large-scale transfer of Americans' personal data to what the White House calls countries of concern. It also creates safeguards around other activities that can give those countries access to American sensitive data. The goal is to make sure the safeguards do not limit legitimate commerce around data.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, discussing an article published over the weekend. Denver homeless hotels, 4,000 911 calls in 100 days. Another article in Medium. Have drugs contaminated Denver's homeless hotels? And I'm raising this question. I understand, if you have a personal inclination to want to help those that are homeless, dealing with addiction, stuff like that. But have we created politically the city of Denver, by allowing people to be able to essentially use drugs in homeless hotels, we've created basically this one-stop shop for drug dealers, crime, human suffering. Have we made things worse with this plan that Mayor Johnston has implemented in the city of Denver? We do have one line open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Blake, give us an update on what you're working on, bud.
Well, okay, we have that little basketball theme we were talking about earlier. I see the Colorado Supreme Court. They're driving to the lane, and the Supreme Court is waiting, and they're looking at this thing, and here's what's going to happen. So we'll see if that happens at 8 o'clock.
That's right, 1 hour, 20 minutes.
Yes, we'll see if that happens. We'll also talk about Nikki Haley, speaking of. But she won her first GOP
she
primary.
Won, and it was the swamp.
Yes, it was the swamp. We'll talk about
perfect.
that much more at the top of the hour.
Oh, thank you, Blake. Yeah, men does not fly in the House of Matumbo.
No, it doesn't.
No, it does not. Thank you so much.
All right, let's go to Scott. Line 1, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning.
Hey, morning. What's on your mind?
Well, as a person in recovery who has taken meetings into places like Step Denver and the Detox and other places in town, I can tell you that there has to be a little bit of accountability when you give benefits to people. Just putting people in homeless people in hotels isn't going to work. I can just tell you from personal experience that you could create a different plan that includes people first transitioning from being in a homeless camp where their services, showers, ability to get transportation, if you're showing sobriety, you give them a place to stay where their measure of safety, even though it's going to be homeless people in the same camp, it's better than just being out there on the streets, sleeping on a grate, getting beat up at night, and food and a shower, and you give people a start. So if they want to stay homeless, they can, but if they want to move out of that, they have to show some kind of sobriety, some kind of testing for people who really want to move out of that situation. And I saw an ideal spot over on Santa Fe, between Santa Fe and Calabash over there by Ellsworth, just a big square, which could certainly be converted to a place where you could start something like that.
Hey,
it's not right in the
Scott,
residential area. So,
can I ask you a question, Scott? And I really appreciate you being honest about being in recovery. Feel free to critique this. What if the city of Denver said this? We are not going to allow you to use drugs openly, sleep on the streets, and we're not going to provide hotels for you. We have plenty of services, things like the Denver Rescue Mission, Catholic Charities, Step Denver. If you want help, we'll help you connect with one of them so you can get help. But we as a city, we're not going to allow it anymore. You want to go to another city, you're welcome to go to another city. But if you're going to use drugs openly or you're going to try to camp out, we're putting you in jail.
think of all of these people collectively as your children. Take a mindset of that. And what would you do with your children? At some certain point, yes, you're going to take a hard line, but do you catch more flies with honey or with vinegar? You're talking about people, your daughters, your sons, standing there smoking fentanyl on the street, nodding out in the middle of the day. It's great to take that hardline stance, but unless you've been on the front lines, people want to quit. They want to get help. There's services out there, but there's also, you could have a comprehensive plan to move people from homelessness to a home, but they have to show sobriety. They have to make a commitment. And there has to be help. You can't just expect people to walk into step Denver. I've been doing meetings all over Denver for almost 15 years, and I can just tell you, the best laid plans of mice and men, there has to be some kind of intervention that helps these people. And it could start with jail, but it can't end with jail. You can't just expect people to do this. If people are homeless and they're in a homeless camp and they're given enough services to keep warm, to keep safe, and you give people an option to move to a better situation, but they have to show sobriety, and it could be any one of a number of programs that helps these people, you transition them.
Scott, thank you so much. I appreciate this, and everybody was on the YouTubes. We're back up. We had some audio problems this morning, and so now you can watch our silly faces on the YouTube if you can. Morning, Scott. I want you to look at the idea of the two different tactics that I'm seeing right now in homelessness, and one is addiction services and recovery first. The other is housing first. Can you comment, based on your experience, both being an addict and being in recovery, on which one you think works better and why?
I would say that there would have to be an amalgam of both. There has to be a transition where people know they have hope, that if they stay clean, there's going to be some kind of help towards transition. You know, when I first got sober, just getting an ID and a bank account with what used to be TCF Bank was a huge blessing. Just that was a huge blessing to be able to move forward in my life. And people that could say, look, if you stay sober, we could put you in a 1-bedroom apartment or a 1-room place and have it supervised, have people take drug screens on a regular basis so that we know that we're not throwing our good money after bad. But you have to be more proactive with these people. You have to have a system in place that transitions them. We have therapists that are so helpful and would really help people. There's so many underlying issues that just to take a stance of saying, if you do this, we'll give you this, instead of saying, we have ways of helping you. How can we help you to move forward in your life?
Scott,
you're talking about, like that gal said, having bachelor's degrees, having children. They're your brothers, they're your sisters, they're your uncles, they're your parents.
Scott, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. I appreciate Scott being being honest about his own challenges. That takes a lot of courage. That's cool. I appreciate that, Scott. Friends, we've got Mike Lynch coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. He's going to be talking about both his race for Congressional District 4, as well as what's happening down at the Capitol. He's going to give an update on that, so you're not going to want to miss that. You Choose the News is up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, let's get to You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, it is time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs this entire weekend for really stupid stories. Boy, do we have a lot of them, because we do some dumb stuff on the weekends. And we've given them more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? Because the people in charge have no idea that we are doing it. And as always, Blake is going to be joining us from the news department. He chooses our third story. All righty, gentlemen, choose carefully. There are some landmines. Here we go. Headline number 1. Well, maybe they forgot. Headline number 2. Best mistake ever. Headline number 3. The real reason is we're a bunch of jerks. And headline number 4. Drive-in liquor store grand opening.
All right, you
Alrighty.
jerks.
Yes, the real reason is we are jerks. When you get on the airplane, do you put your cell phone in airplane mode? Do ya? Well, you probably don't need to. It's probably just a giant scam.
I'm talking all the way till we get off.
Well, it is probably just a giant scam. Back in 2022, Europe decided to install what they're calling pico cells, which sounds more like a delicious salsa than actual anything of technology. Easy for me to say. But basically it ensures that phone signals don't cross with the plane's communication system. The origin of this is back in the day, we thought that the cell phones would interfere with the plane's electronics. But the actual reason we were told to turn our cell phones off is because when you're way up in the air and you turn your cell phone on, you take over so many of the towers down below you. But that technology does not exist anymore that way. It changes. So that's no longer a danger. You can turn your phone on the airplane, but the real reason the airlines tell you not to is because we keep talking on them and we're idiots and we're mean.
Not paying attention.
Yeah, and we're mean to the flight attendants. They said that the people on the phones are jerks, and so we prefer for them not to have it. Yeah, exactly. So again, that's the real reason. All right, second choice this morning, sir. Maybe they forgot best mistake ever or drive-in liquor store grand opening.
Let's go to the liquor store, man.
Yes, drive-in liquor store grand opening. This is happening in Laredo, Texas. Recently, a 33-year-old man was angry when he showed up at the convenience store late in the evening and found that the beer coolers were locked. That,
especially after
yes,
hard days.
It is. I mean, that is obviously assault on his freedom. So he took the liberty to assault the clerk and smacked him in the side of the head, then walked outside, promptly got into his Ford F-150 and drove into the store, as one does when you obviously need beer that badly. So yes, he crashed his F-150 through the front doors into the store. The best part about it was he did so much damage to the truck that he and his passenger couldn't get out and had to wait for law enforcement to arrive to break the windows and then promptly arrest them, making it easy for the law enforcement.
He was there.
I know. I just, the whole part for me was the decision making of me need beer, me need smash, me get beer. The whole thought process here. I don't know. All right, Blake, your final choice this morning. Maybe they forgot or best mistake ever.
Maybe they forgot.
Yeah, maybe they did forget. That's what the state of California is saying after they held an auction and nobody really showed up. This happened early in the month of February. It was an auction. They were trying to reclaim more than $14 million in unpaid taxes. They were hoping that some of the equipment they took from these businesses was going to sell for over $200,000. They recently had done another auction, got over $300,000. But unfortunately, this was an auction for the potheads. It was a whole bunch of stuff they had taken from cannabis businesses that owed California more than 14 million unpaid taxes. So they were anything you can have to do in the cannabis industry, the pipes and the bungs and the other stuff that you use. All of that was up for auction. They were hoping to get $200,000. They made approximately $2,075. Because nobody showed up.
Maybe they all forgot.
Yes, because maybe they all forgot what day that the actual auction was going on. So, yeah, that is it. That is it. If you choose the news this morning, as always, Blake and Jeff are our winners. Thanks for playing along, Blake. We'll talk to you in news in just a second. I am a giant loser. And remember, this is absolutely not sponsored by Roll Them Out Shelves. You can book a free home estimate today. Organize your kitchen, bath. See all their work at rollthemoutshelves.com. They can make your kitchen, your laundry room, bedroom, bathroom, wherever you have shelves, wherever you have closet space, wherever you need drawers. They can make it magic. But whatever you do not tell them you heard about it on You Choose the News. You tell them about 710 KNUS, they'll love you forever. You choose the news, they will throw things at you. I speak from experience. That is it, sir. Back to you.
Is there a marijuana auction today? I don't know.
Dude,
this is Benjamin the Bong bag.
I think it's down at the Wait, what were we talking about? I forgot.
Was Mike
yeah.
Lynch is up next?
Is it Lynch? I think so. I'm hungry. Let's go get some nachos.
Friends, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, and up next, Lynch.
710 CanUS.
Man, navigating that chaos is exactly right. It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning. It's Monday, March 4th. Congratulations.
Morning.
You woke up again today. Get after it. Let's make a difference. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. All right, let's go to Blake with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. 26, mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the lower 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, we may be about 60 minutes away from finding out if the Supreme Court steps up in the lane and swats an attempt by the Colorado Supreme Court to keep former President Trump off the ballot.
The reason for that is that partly the case is being heard on an expedited basis, and second, that the Colorado primary is obviously being held on Tuesday. So there's a reason why the court might want to get this out ahead of that.
That's NBC's Lawrence Hurley. GOP candidate Nikki Haley actually won her first primary. No surprise. It was In D.C., the swamp. A woman is dead following a shooting Sunday night along West Iliff. Responding officers found the woman suffering from a gunshot wound, but could not save her in time. A homicide investigation underway after a man was gunned down in southeast Denver on Friday night along East Girard and Cherry Creek State Park. No word on any suspects or arrests. Pope Francis is urging for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza to provide aid and secure the release of hostages, and so did Vice President Kamala Harris on Sunday.
And given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire.
She had to walk back the immediate part, but meets with Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz today at the White House. President Biden will deliver his State of the Union address on Thursday. He will play up his work on infrastructure. He has 4 days to rest up. Journalists getting chained and having to do the perp walk. The Blaze reporter Steve Baker experienced that on Friday.
I don't like the deliberate humiliation that they put me through. There was no reason to do that. There was no reason to march me into a courtroom in leg chains today. There was somebody there answering for a felony, and they weren't in chains. My charges are misdemeanors.
He said the administration didn't like his words. Baker said, "We are not Canada yet, but close." Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the massive cause of the Smokehouse Creek fire in the Panhandle is now under investigation. It has scorched 1 million acres and killed 2 people. Award-winning ESPN journalist Chris Mortensen has passed away at the age of 72. He had been battling throat cancer for 8 years. The Nuggets go for 7 straight tomorrow night against the Suns. CU, they've won 4 straight. They beat Stanford 81-71 over the weekend, and the Avalanche play host to the Blackhawks tonight. 23 in Lafayette, 25 in Lone Tree, 26 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olsen, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, joining us on the VIP line is Mike Lynch. He's a Colorado House of Representatives member representing District 65. He's also running for Congress in Congressional District 4. Representative Lynch, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Jeff, great to be with you. Congratulations on the show. It was fun to get to hear you once a week, but now I get to hear you every day. This is great.
Thank you. You're no stranger by any means. Thanks for being on the program. So let's first of all get an update on the House of Representatives here in Colorado. You introduced a bill last week that I think the Democrats shot down, but you've also had some success getting some stuff across the line here. So give us an update first on what's happening with your current job, and then we'll talk about the future job you're trying to seek.
You bet. Right. Yeah. And I think the bill you're talking about, these folks say they want to help people with addiction issues. When I go around Denver, I look on the streets and I go, this is not a homeless issue. This is an addiction issue. What can we do? Where does the proper role of government come in here to help with this? And I believe the role of government should be really limited. However, when our streets are peppered with homeless people, we might want to take a look at what we're doing. And so the bill that I proposed last week, which honestly, if it was put forward by a Democrat, it would have flown through like through a goose. And all it did is it allowed us to get people with addiction issues help earlier in the process when they're going through law enforcement, right? So the judge can assess this person and say, you know, instead of us putting you down this track for pre-trial, you step outside the lobby and I've got somebody waiting there for treatment. And you can either, you know, do this pee in the cup thing, or you can actually go get some treatment. Well, that was just too radical for the Democrats down there. It really upset me that bill. So now we've got to wait potentially another year before. And judges are doing this in certain places. This just made it legal. Anyway, so that was last week. You know, and last week we also heard the thing about name changes and what that bill really did. Well, there's two. One that allowed felons to change their name because they're sexually confused, and then the next one allowed kids to change their name. And what that bill really did, and we kind of went all over the board with this, but what that bill really did is it made the teacher guilty of discrimination if Mike decided to be Michelle the next day and the teacher said, "Oh, hey, Mike with a wig. I mean, oh, crud. I mean, Michelle." Well, that teacher now is guilty. Now, what that guilt looks like, what does that mean? What punishment? We don't know, but they have committed discrimination against that student. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, when I went to the well, I was just so frustrated with this stupid stuff that, we spent 3 days working on that sort of stuff. And my comments from the well were, great, we spent 3 days on this. Meanwhile, I drove to work on a crappy road with expensive gas, can't afford groceries, and I'm still trying to figure out how to pay my property taxes.
Right.
Right. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's all those big issues that the citizens of Colorado care about, but it's the capital is being used to drive special interest social issues, right? That's like one of the complaints that social conservatives get all the time. It's like, oh, you guys are trying to drive your agenda. You're trying to force things on other people. By the way, we have all these other bigger things. We got to look at what the state capitol has become. Planned Parenthood, ACLU, they just write the bills. They hand it to the lawmakers. They introduce it and it just gets pressed forward. You spent 3 days on whether or not kids in schools can just change their names on a whim. And if the teacher doesn't address it, well, then we're going to punish the teacher. Or if you're a convicted felon, a criminal, you can change your name. 3 days on that. I wish the voters of Colorado would recognize what your taxpayer dollars are being spent on.
Irregardless of how crazy this stuff is, it affects maybe 50 people of our 6 million, right? So we're not getting big bang for our buck down there. It's absolutely crazy.
Those two bills are now going to go over to the Senate. What do you think they're going to? What do you think is going to happen in the Senate? I know you're not in the Senate, but you watch bills all the time go over there. So what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, with the leadership changes that happened over there, the Senate isn't the backstop that we're used to it being. Right. So I don't know. This will be a good test for that. But no, we can't count on the Senate to be sane anymore either. And so
50 people. That's the best line of the day. So maybe this will affect 50 people. Let's get into your congressional race. You're seeking to be the Republican nominee in Congressional District 4. You're in a competitive. Go ahead.
Well, I've got you. Let me continue on one thing, which is really, really important, and the real reason I wanted to talk to you today.
Yeah.
And I do this every year, and it's that time again for us to recognize the number one killer of people in this state, ages 18 to 45, which is fentanyl.
Yeah.
I every single year I have been in the legislature, I've been the only one that brings up stuff on fentanyl. So this Wednesday, my bill is very simple, and it's the same bill I've had for the last 4 years. It felonizes the possession of fentanyl, which you would think makes perfect sense to people who don't want to kill other people or want people to be killed. So that if anybody in the listening range here wants to come to the Capitol and tell their story of how they've been infected by fentanyl, I'm begging for as many folks as possible to get there on Wednesday at 1:30 and sign up. I have a hard time going anywhere to any event without somebody coming up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, my uncle, my cousin, my son." Yesterday, I met a fellow who said, "Oh my gosh, my son died of fentanyl." Anyway, this is ridiculous. This is fentanyl is not a drug. Fentanyl is a poison, and it is killing people. And we refuse as a government to punish folks for having it. Punishment is a deterrent. I don't care what they tell you in the liberal world. That's why the whole reason we have laws. It's the entire reason we have laws. And if we're not willing to apply that standard to the number one killer of our citizens, shame, shame, shame on us as a legislature. So anyway, 1:30, that bill will be heard, and I unfortunately know the fate.
Yeah, Mike, well, tell us why it's going to die. Why do you think it'll die? Why it's died in past years?
That's just, they're still using the paradigm that we can, these people can recover. Well, people do not recover from death, right? So they think it's too harsh. What if my kid accidentally has it, and it's in some other drug? Well, your kid shouldn't have that drug. Let's deter that behavior, right? Yeah. I mean, these arguments are crazy, and they come from this compassionate part. Well, we don't want to turn these people into felons. Well, how about we turn them into dead? Is that better? Like, knock it off, Colorado.
Right. Obviously, the left's approach, and we got into this just before you got on, is not working with regards to addressing drug addiction. 4,000 calls, 911 calls coming from these Denver homeless hotels, questions about drug contamination in these hotels. They are not, whatever the left is doing in their compassion with their, bleeding heart, is not actually solving the problem. Even Oregon's walking that back at this point. All right, I want to get to your race, because I know you're running for Congress. You're in a competitive primary. Why are you the best to lead Congressional District 4 in Colorado?
Yeah. So, Jeff, at what point will we as Republicans quit playing the game that the Democrats do, and just put people who are great mouthpieces, or people that can beat the drum the loudest? We used to be the party that actually believed in putting people that know how to do a job in charge. In 2 years, I rose to the highest ranks of the Republican Party, not because particularly of my great things, but because I was elected by my peers because they knew I was good at that job. I've served in the military. I actually have employees. I actually manufacture. I actually understand these issues. I've proven that I'm good at this job. When did we stop putting people who are good at a job through a promotion? So anyway, that's why I believe I'm the best candidate for this. Because we can't do what the other side does and get the most ideological spokesman out there and expect different results, right? So, I'm old school. I believe that you don't join the Army and say, I'm going to be a general. You join the Army and say, I'm going to work my way through the ranks until I get to where I need to be. But anyway, because I've done the job, I can continue to do it in DC. And quite frankly, Jeff, personally, with my life right now, my kids are newly off to college. My wife is in support. She would actually quit her job and travel back and forth with me. I'm not going to allow that place to infect me. So I'm just in a good place for it. And quite honestly, I believe that God is on my side, and I want to bring that Christian perspective and a man of God perspective to this job as well. So anyway, there's my quick spiel.
No, let's dive a little bit more into this. Lauren Boebert got the endorsement of President Trump over the weekend. What's your response to that?
Well, I would expect that. I mean, so that's the thing that folks don't understand in this game. When you have a relationship and have worked and been in the battlefield with somebody, you get on their side. And she and Donald Trump have done that. So I would expect that. I don't know, in a state that completely hates Trump, that's a good thing for her. Back in 2016, I actually filmed a Donald Trump ad, was a big supporter of his. And so, we worked together at different times. I'm not deterred by it, quite frankly. I hope others are. So, but it is what it is. I would expect that to happen. I was expecting that to happen. So it doesn't change my perspective. I want the endorsement of the people of Colorado. That's the one I'm after.
So let's talk about how you differentiate yourselves from some of the other candidates. CD4 has become a really unique district because in the past it didn't pull in Douglas County. Now it does. So you have an incredibly suburban district, but you also have basically the entire eastern part of the state of Colorado. So let's talk about the difference in the district and why you're better than like a Deborah Flora or a Jerry Sonnenberg.
Yeah. Well, so I bring both those perspectives. I mean, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm looking at my hay meadow that I actually put water on and grow hay on. But then I leave here and I go to my business where I actually manufacture stuff. And I live just far enough out. I grew up agrarian. And so I understand that. And I've also served. I mean, I'm on the ag committee. I'm on the recurring ag and natural resource committee. So I know ag issues very good right now, but I also understand business issues. I also sit on that committee as well. So I by no means am a rancher or have that. I know enough about that to make sure that those issues are heard, but I also know enough about business issues that those issues can be heard as well. And, I've got a master's in public administration. I actually have done the steps that I think qualify you best for this job, and live kind of both of those worlds. Personally, I love the ag side of things, but professionally, I'm very much a business guy, more than I am an ag guy, to be honest with you.
When I think about the kind of all the candidates are in there, I kind of put you in the category a little bit closer to like a Jerry Sonnenberg. You're from the northeastern part of the district. Jerry infamously got the Californian of the Year award from John Caldera and the Independence Institute, which I think if you were just running a campaign against, that would be what I would put out there. Jerry's a fine guy, but my goodness, that's not something you ever want to be called in Colorado. Tell us about the difference between you and Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry's great. I was with him all day yesterday in Holyoke. Here's the thing, Jerry, the world has changed drastically since Jerry was in there. So Jerry was there when we had a thing called a majority. So, I mean, just that alone is crazy for me to think about. But no, I mean, we are moving in such a rapid changing political world right now. I mean, it is crazy. Just the changes that I've seen in the 4 years I've been there. And Jerry, so Jerry was there during a different era. He has done his time there. And in a time when it was really different. Jerry would be a much better ag representative than me. He knows those issues better than I do, hands down. He doesn't necessarily know the most recent ones because I'm currently on all those committees. So as those issues have changed, he's not current, but I believe in Reagan's 11th Amendment, and I'll never talk bad about Jerry. He's a good guy. He just has done his time, and we appreciate that service. And he needs to continue to be the county commissioner that he just ran for. So, that's our differences. One is I'm a little more current on what's going on, and I don't think we need to take paradigms from the past to the future. So
makes sense. Mike Lynch joining Jeff and Bill. Mike Lynch, Colorado House Representative, also running for CD4. Given the voters you're talking to in CD4, I like how Jeff outlined you have some suburban and then a lot of rural. What are you hearing as far as the biggest issues between those two divergent populations? And then if you win the seat in CD4, how do you balance the desires and needs of the suburbans in Douglas County with the rural inside of the rest of that eastern part of the state?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer the second question first, which is, I've learned in this job is not about Mike Lynch. This job is about the people that you represent. So here's what I think that district needs is, and I've honestly kind of mapped this out, to have literally an RV that goes and parks itself in Hexton for a week to get people's input. It needs, the representation, it doesn't mean that you have to be the expert on stuff. Because there's no way a representative can be the expert. It's about setting up, like I've done through my business, communication lines with that district. I mean, we get asked on the campaign trail, what's the one thing you can promise? And I said, well, I can't promise anything in this world other than I can assure you I will set up the network so that those voices are heard. That's what's so important. that those people need when they've got an issue that deals with the federal government. I mean, let's talk about what that job really does. That's all you are. You are the conduit between CD4 and DC. The better that conduit is, the better you will do that job. The issues in that district are similar between the two. I mean, the biggest thing we hear about is obviously the immigration issue. What are we gonna do about immigration? On the ag side, we've got a lot of opportunities to make sure that oil and gas remains viable in this state, that and the water issues on the Eastern Plains. Those water issues are also very real in Douglas County as well. So that's one that crosses both of those borders. But in my mind, and this is what I've discovered from being a rep down at the House, is that it's not what Mike Lynch's agenda is going to be. It is the agenda of the people of that district. And so setting up that network is really the one thing you can guarantee. And then the issues will flow from there. And they're not sexy and salacious. So,
Representative Lynch, I want to ask you if you, by the way, Representative Lynch represents House District 65 here in Colorado. He's running for Congressional District 4. A few rapid fire things here. Would you support deportation of illegal immigrants?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I would support our laws, right? We need to enforce the laws that we have written. So as long as we have that on the books, that you are an illegal alien, you are illegal, right? So it's but absolutely. I mean, I would contract with a bus company.
There you go. Would you support a national ban on abortions?
In the event that would come up, yes. I don't think it will. And we've kind of decided that question with the Roe v. Wade thing. So I am a firm believer in the process. So right now, where we are at in that process is that Roe v. Wade said it's a state's issue. So let's figure out a smart way of getting states to be in the right place on that. So there you
go. Would you support the impeachment of Mayorkas?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would. Yep.
And then would you support invoking, I think it's the 25th Amendment, right? With regards to Joe Biden and his capacity.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thanks for doing the rapid fire with us. Again, we're talking with Mike Lynch, Colorado House of Representatives, District 65. And here he's running for Congressional District 4 in the state of Colorado too. I just had your website up. Give people your website to learn more about you, Mike.
You bet. Real simple. Lynch4colorado.com.
There it is.
Lynch4 F-O-R. F-O-R, not the number 4.
Lynch4colorado.com. He's got a whole lot of platforms there. Well done on the website. You can see everything from fiscal responsibility to rule of law to limited government. Big next few weeks as you guys are looking at getting on the ballot. Are you going a signature route in addition to the caucus, or are you just purely caucus?
I'm actually going to be purely signature.
Purely signature. All right.
Yeah.
So if you want,
which breaks my heart, Jeff. It breaks my heart. I have never ever pulled petitions. I firmly believe in that process. But I also understand where we're at with this state and this state party right now. And I have blatantly been attacked by the state party chair. So I don't trust the process.
So if you look for those signature gatherers outside of Home Depot, I saw 2 of them this last week. One was for Jerry, one was for Deborah. So they're out there collecting signatures. So if you want Mike on the ballot, that's how to get him on the ballot. Representative Lynch, I appreciate you being on the Jeff and Bill Show. Thanks so much.
I'm so glad that you are doing this, Jeff. It really is wonderful. I listen to you every day on the radio. So thank you.
That's awesome. Well, we like to really connect with what's happening down at the state capitol, make sure our listeners know. Thank you for taking the time to update us on that, as well as your candidacy. I think the better informed our citizens are, we're going to have better leaders. So I appreciate you giving us the time.
Once again, this fentanyl legislation is huge. We need to let them know about that. So that's Wednesday at 1:30. Love all the support I can get on that. So that's crucial. I also believe you got to do one job good before you get hired for another one. So I'm working my butt off down there this year.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Representative Lynch. Friends, we'll get to your phone call. Michael, you'll be up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Vice President Kamala Harris is due to meet with a member of Israel's war cabinet in Washington later to discuss how to get humanitarian aid into Gaza and the need for a temporary ceasefire. Jagruti Dave has more.
Officials from both sides have confirmed the meeting is taking place. In a statement, Benny Gantz said that US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, as well as a bipartisan group of congressmen and women, would be attending. A White House official said that Vice President Harris would reiterate her concerns for the safety of around 1.5 million Palestinians seeking refuge in Rafah, as well as reiterating Israel's right to self-defense against attacks from Hamas. The White House is coming under increasing pressure to help secure a ceasefire, as well as the release of the remaining Israeli hostages captured by Hamas.
A US Border Patrol agent has killed a bandit who was robbing migrants crossing into the US from Mexico. It happened on Sunday near an area where migrants had handed themselves over for processing. No Border Patrol agents were harmed. The rest of the bandit gang fled back across the border. The chief of US Border Patrol, Jason Owens, says this activity is another example of the dangers criminals and smugglers pose to the public, the migrants, and our agents. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
The poll is off and running on the Jeff and Bill Show. We just wrapped up with Mike Lynch, Colorado House of Representatives, District 65, also running for facts.
Yeah, they're related to Quincy Jones.
Really?
Yeah, they're like his nephews.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever happened to them? They've kind of
Oddly
since
enough.
to drop off since then.
Oh gosh, you mean Quincy Jones' nephew that only made 1 or 2 pop songs? Now, yeah, again, rich kid stuff. It's like at one point Hulk Hogan's daughter Brooke Hogan had a pop tour and produced an album. Yeah, sometimes it goes that way. Alrighty, I'm sorry. Go back.
Hey, before we get to Blake, real quick question: what's like a great father-son, father-daughter, mother-son duo that's taken off in music?
Ooh, mother's son, his father-daughter. Well,
Or
I mean, originally,
like you were talking about how Hulk Hogan and Brooke, they do get a launching pad.
Yeah,
but
they do.
Has anyone ever like had a really successful independent career after that?
A couple of them. One we talked about earlier, Max Weinberg's son Jay, who was the drummer for Slipknot, dude, super talented.
Mhm.
That's a huge one. The one right now, the biggest one that pops to mind is Wolfgang Van Halen. He is killing it. He's unbelievable. His band is called Mammoth WVH. He's dropped 2 albums, working on the 3rd. It is absolutely incredible. You've got to go out, look for the very first one, because he plays all of the instruments on the recording. He goes out
very cool.
Yeah, he goes out afterwards and finds a band to play live with him. But all of that is him. And the nice part is he's not trying to be his dad. He is his own musician, and his voice is fantastic. That is one that I'm really happy with. He is someone that if you talk about a guy that is coming out of that era, that has all of the fun and all the chances to be great. The fun thing is that he talks about the number of guitar lessons that his father gave him. He said 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Your dad's Van Halen. You
exactly.
get 1 guitar lesson.
And what he did is he said it was more about by watching him play and learning that way. His dad never came to him and said, no, your technique is this way. Do this, do this, do this. He always let him find it out himself. He said, in fact, his uncle Alex was the one that actually talked to him a little bit more about playing than his dad did at the time. So also, if you are a Van Halen fan, Alex has a book coming out called Brothers that is a love letter really to his brother Eddie that passed away. If you are a Van Halen fan, that is the thing to get this year. Any gift for any Van Halen fan, anything at all, buy it. I've seen excerpts. It is absolutely phenomenal. You will not regret it. For any Van Halen fan, the book's called Brothers. Alex Van Halen is dropping soon. Sorry,
I asked a simple question.
I know this is what happens.
I get a master's thesis response.
It is your turn.
We love you, Blake. All right, let's go. Or Bill, let's go to Blake with the news.
Now my vote is for the Leverts. Okay, the OJs. Check that
that's
out.
good.
I mean,
yeah,
great generation of singers and
That's a good
performers.
one.
But what do I know? I'm not Bill. Come on. Let's see. We've got the Colorado Supreme Court big decision coming up with the federal Supreme Court. Will that hold up with Donald Trump on the primary ballot here in Colorado? We are expecting that at 8:00. Now, they haven't said specifically that it is this decision, but because Super Tuesday tomorrow, that's what everyone is anticipating. We'll also talk about CD4 and the endorsement from Trump with Boebert, as you just talked about with Mike Lynch. We'll also hear from Mike Lynch again if you didn't hear him earlier. But great job, guys, and making news. And we're giving you all that at the top of the hour coming up.
All right. Thanks, Blake. I appreciate it. Let's go to Michael on line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Michael.
Morning.
Good morning. So I just wanted to throw a thing at you, and then I had a thought. I just started listening to you guys' show, so I'm enjoying it. Instead of on State of the Union on Thursday, I had decided I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to watch Weekend at Bernie's.
So kind of the same thing. Almost the same thing.
So I was like, I'm not wasting this much time, so I'm going to watch Weekend at Bernie's. And my wife's like, why don't you throw it out to everybody and tell them watch that instead, because I think you're going to get more out of it. So
it is going to be fascinating. Great. Thanks for reminding me. I didn't even realize it was this Thursday, Michael. What I know, obviously you expect pretty low energy from Joe Biden. What do you think? I mean, they're in a situation where they've got to get him up on stage and he's got to talk for like an hour. If it's less than an hour, that'll be the news story. So what do you think they're going to do to try to, injections with speed? I don't know. How do you get Joe Biden through an hour-long speech?
I assume they're going to do B vitamins or whatever they try to do every time. But I'm an independent here in Colorado, and I grew up here, and I'm not going to lie, he's embarrassing. And, I'm obviously, if Trump's going to be there, I'm voting for him. I had one other thing I wanted to throw and ask you guys, because I know Dick Bottoms the other day was on, and he kind of went at one of you guys, I can't remember who. And, growing up here, maybe both of you. I don't know.
No, it was one of us. I was looking at Jeff through the glass here because there was another argument that went on after the show between Dick Bottoms and Jeff.
A little bit for me growing up here, going from a purple state to a blue state. I've seen a Republican Party act a lot like the Rockies. They're more worried about their party deck than getting good candidates out there. And I just haven't. I remember the Governor Owens days, and I get his argument, but who we put out since, and
I wrote
kind of frustrated me a little bit.
I wrote a piece on this on my website. If you go to jeffhunt.com and click on writings there about just the notion of Republicans figuring out how to win anything. Right. So if I was going to put myself in the state party chair position, I go, look, I don't think we're going to win anything statewide anytime soon. I think we focus in on look what's happened with Aurora. Let's replicate Aurora in every city that we can, get control of the city council and implement some type of pushback on this leftism that's taking place in the state. But I found this purity test that exists, and it exists on both sides, whether you're a never Trumper or kind of like a rhino hunter, that if we only changed the party within, we would start winning. So if we just got rid of the Trump lovers, we'd start winning. That's one side. And they argue very passionately in the Denver Post for this, right? Like, if we had just got rid of these guys, we'd win. Then on the other side, if we're just out there rhino hunting, we get rid of those guys, we'll start winning. And I'm sitting there going, first of all, we win when we have the most people on the bus. So kicking somebody else off the bus doesn't help us get more people on the bus, right? So there's a role. And I said this to Dick Bottoms afterwards. Dick's role winning campaigns should be valuable to anybody running a race in the state, and they should listen to him. He has experience. He's won in the past. He's at least worth listening to. But you also need the grassroots guys right now, the blue-collar Trump-loving guys. So I just wish we as a party, and now I could be very open since I've left Centennial Institute because they were a 501c3 and they were nonpartisan, but I am a lifelong Republican. I am a Republican. I want to see Republicans winning. That's my goal. But I see this purity test and these lobbying of bombs on either side that take place in the Denver Post and the Gazette. And if we just got rid of the other guys, we'd start winning. We need each other. And we need to focus in on just winning something to get the momentum going because we have a losing culture within our party right now.
I've got a question for both of you, both Michael and Jeff, because I understand where Dick was coming from because he feels, again, this is my opinion, that he feels that he's been one of those that have been rhinoed. And he's going, listen, I have been part of this party for so long. I have helped people get elected. And he's saying, I'm not saying that we can't even, for a certain extent, he supported Donald Trump for quite a long time. He's saying, I'm not even saying that we can't support Trump. What he's saying, like you talk about, the purity test does us more harm than good. Yes. And his argument, especially in Colorado, and I think it's a salient one, is if we focus on finding the most pure Republican candidate possible and don't focus on listening to the winning issues that are possible in Colorado, we are setting ourselves up for failure. And his major critique that I hear is we aren't listening to the voters. There are conservative messages that can work, but we aren't listening to them, and we're instead asking them to agree with us rather than meeting them where they are. And I think that's where Dick Wadham's strategy could be really valuable. Is you need to come to him and say, here are the issues that we have. How do we message? How do we reach? How do we make these things work? Because that's a guy who knows how to do it backwards and forwards. And ignoring his ability to craft a message that resonates with voters is a real detriment to the Republican Party, because he may be one of the top ones in the state as far as his ability to do that.
I agree with that, but the problem was when I asked him what to do, the 3 things we should do to win, he went after Dave Williams. And I just was like, oh, come on, man. It's like, look, and it's just my nature. I'm a coalitions guy. I was a coalitions guy for Santorum. I'm a coalitions guy for Romney. I just, at the end of the day, am motivated on getting the most people on the bus. And if you have most of the people on the bus, we win. And I would say the same thing back to those that want to go rhino hunting all day. You got to listen to Dick because he has a track record of winning, at least in some capacity. Now, it might have been years ago, but he's won in the past. So at least listen to him.
Yeah.
And don't force him out of the party and be like, we're better off without you.
Yeah. The way that he crafted messages still holds true.
Yeah.
Some of those things still make. Now, Michael, your opinion on the idea of these purity tests inside of a party, either being on the left or on the right, but primarily dealing with the Conservative Party in Colorado and the GOP right now. As long as the party is focused on either you're a rhino or you're a never Trumper, in your opinion, sitting outside their tent, how do they move forward? What could get you on their team wearing their jersey, given the dysfunction you see in the party right now? How can they persuade you?
I don't know if they can.
Interesting.
As an incentive, I mean, I'm, retired military. I lean right. I'm an independent, but I vote Republican. So for me, even though I'm Christian, a little bit, sometimes I get a little tired of hearing, if you're not a pure Christian or if you're not a pure Trump guy. I gravitated towards Trump because I think, like everybody else, got tired of the status quo. So to say one way or the other, purity test, if we get the right guy on the ballot, I can vote Republican either way. But Trump's a pit bull, and he goes after what we want. I've seen this state decline, and I do agree that I like Dick, but the problem I have is, he clings on to the past. I was disappointed when Cory Gardner didn't run again and he left. I had hoped that Cory was going to run for governor, and he just disappeared.
Now, Michael, it sounds like you may have at some point or another been a registered Republican, but aren't anymore. Am I correct?
No.
No, really? Okay.
I've always been independent, but I can tell you I lean on the right side, period.
Okay.
So
now,
I hate.
Okay, now, if you lean to the right, what prevents you from joining the party and putting on the jersey? What prevents you from being the Broncos fan, the Chiefs fan, the GOP fan? What's preventing you from putting that jersey on?
I don't see enough coming from them. So I see them collecting money and not putting out, for better words, a good product. I see them.
That's
I've got friends that have worked in the state legislature here that are Republicans, and I've thought about running for state here. I live in a blue area up in Broomfield, which is a freaking nightmare. I've seen Broomfield slide downhill.
Oh, I agree.
And I've seen how nasty they are. Part of me doesn't know if I want to sit there and throw myself under the bus.
Michael, I think you should. I think you should.
Cool.
I think, believe me, as somebody who sat down at the state capitol, you would not hire most of the people in control to walk your dog. They're some of the dumbest people our state has found, and put them into leadership. So you would be a step up. You are a rational thinker, and you think that there are consequences to decisions. So that already puts you ahead of most of the people down there.
Yeah,
Michael,
watch out for those tires, though. They hurt. Oh, do they hurt with that bus?
Michael, thank you. I appreciate it. I told Dave Williams this when he got elected. You're going to be measured on one thing: You're literally measured on one thing. You're like the head coach of a football team.
Yep.
You're measured on your ability to win.
Yep. That's it.
That's it. So my recommendation, and I said this to Christy Burton Brown too, get the momentum going. Just get the momentum going. Win some city council races, win some mayor races, because most donors are like investors. They want to see momentum in a certain direction.
Return on investment is big.
Right.
Yep. If I put this money in, am I getting the representation?
You don't have to jump to statewide. We don't have to, and I know that's where we all go. We've got to get a new governor. We've got to get new senators in. Those do matter. But when you're on your back the way we are as a party in the state of Colorado, you get some wins underneath you. People get excited. They're looking good. Look at Prime. First few weeks of Prime's leadership, right?
Yep.
Like all of a sudden, everybody wants to be a part of that train moving forward.
Yep.
Now, it didn't play out as great, but they're going to keep them around.
But what would have happened if it would have gone inverse, 180 degrees? What would have happened if they would have struggled, and the tail end of the season, it was win. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're talking about with Dave Williams is sometimes, yes, the losses are piling up, but you need the little wins because the little wins can build the big wins.
Yep. That's exactly right. So you look at my article, jeffhunt.com. I think we need the Nikki Haley, Cherry Hills Republicans. I think we need the grassroots, blue collar Trump Republicans. We need them together because our focus should be on the left and getting some wins. All right. We're going to get to your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, CanUS.
All right, a whole lot of conversation happening on the phone lines and text messaging. We started with the number of homeless calls happening in Denver hotels for the homeless. 4,000 just in the past few months. 911 calls coming from these Denver hotels that the homeless are in. Mike Lynch joined us in the 7 o'clock hour to talk about his race for Congressional District 4, as well as giving us an update on what's happening at the state Capitol. Let's go to Joan, line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joan.
Morning.
Good morning. I was intrigued by you asking what people are going to do on Thursday night with the State of the Address. And I can tell you in Jefferson County, we're caucusing.
Oh, is it Thursday? Ours is Saturday in Elbert County.
It's Saturday in Adams County, but in Jefferson County, it's Thursday night. So,
will you share with folks what caucusing is, Joan, if they've never done it, never been a part of it before?
Yeah, and are you doing it in person or is it Zoom? Just out of curiosity, because I know some are doing Zoom.
We are all person all the time in Jefferson County, and the Democrat Party is the Zoom party. So they're all Zoom here in Jefferson County. And I know this because in order to post on some platforms, I had to post both the Democrat and the Republican, so they couldn't take me down as being biased. Anyway, so caucus is a grassroots means of electing people to the positions here in Colorado. And it starts out by you being in a precinct, you knowing your precinct number, you go to the school, because they're all in schools here in Jefferson County right now. And you can go to the Jefferson, Jeffco Republicans with an S.com. And then you can scroll down and they have something called Caucus Corner. And Caucus Corner will tell you where you need to go.
So we have two ways for you to engage typically in the state of Colorado. One is to vote in a primary, but that's once somebody's gotten on the ballot. To get on the ballot, there's two ways to do it. You can do it through the caucus process or petition process. Caucus is you just show up. You're in a classroom. You're typically with people in your neighborhood, and you talk about kind of how you're going to be a delegate. You're going to elect a delegate to represent a particular candidate that could be for state house, state senate, as well as Congress. All of this stuff takes place kind of grassroots with the neighborhood, and it really invites those that are active, want to be engaged, most closely connected to the conservative movement and the Republican Party to help determine who gets on the ballot. So I strongly recommend that you do be a part of this. And if you're nervous and you've never done this before, believe me, it's not scary at all. It's really simple, and you're hanging out with people in your own neighborhood. So not a bad way to spend a Thursday night or a Saturday coming up. Get involved. Joan, thanks so much for the call. Friends, in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to host Janak Joshi. He's running for candidate of Congressional District 8 here in the state of Colorado. You remember that's currently held by Democrats. So it's a potential flip. You're not going to want to miss it. Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, March 4th, 2024. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. We are scouring the webs, paying close attention to scotusblog.com, waiting for this possible decision. We don't know, but there's a possible decision coming down this morning with regards to Donald Trump and the ballot here in Colorado, and whether or not your ballot's going to count. So we're going to continue to watch that. Everything is now paused on SCOTUS blog.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying time to refresh. We are all waiting.
That was kind of a tease they dropped over the weekend. Like, we're going to be deciding things. Like, wait, hey, hang on here. and some of this is a little quicker. I find it interesting that the talk is that we may hear one of the Supreme Court Trump-involved cases, but not both. And I find that interesting.
They're saying Trump v. Anderson is coming out.
It is? Ooh, Now that's going to be an
Here it is. Decision. Yeah. We got the link.
And now the thing for me is, now while you're looking at that, the thing for me is that it looks like we're going to get the drop on the ballot issue here in Colorado, but we may not get the issue on immunity. And I find that very interesting that we have one issue decided by the Supreme Court that to me seems self-evident, but the one that is more
reversed
sticky.
It.
Really?
They reversed it. Here we go. Did the Colorado Supreme Court err in ordering President Trump excluded from the 2024 presidential primary ballot?
Yeah.
Concluding that it did, we now reverse.
Wow. Now, do you have the votes? Is it unanimous? Do we have that yet? I know. I that's not fair for me to ask you.
I know, and I'm not even an attorney, so I'm doing my best on this.
That is so hard. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Some of your vote counts.
Well, here, what I want to do is let's throw to Blake, and then we'll figure it out.
All right.
What the actual vote is. This is amazing. Well, joining us with breaking news, Supreme Court has overturned the Colorado Supreme Court case. Yeah, Blake Olsen.
I don't see any negative response, whatever that's called.
Wow.
This may have been.
They've been unanimous. That was the scale. That was the
9-0.
thing. Wow. Let's take a look. All righty. And here's Blake to tell us more.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you guys break in when you find it, because I'm curious too. Because I'm trying to do two things at one time here as well. 29 and mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the lower 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the Colorado Supreme Court said that former President Trump would not be on the primary ballot. But this morning, just seconds ago, the Supreme Court releasing their major decision. And as Jeff said, no shocker, but they have reversed it. So will this be the case? Get that weak stuff out of here. We'll see. The guys will chime in here if we have the vote. I'll continue now. No surprise, but Nikki Haley won her first primary Sunday in Washington, D.C. And State Representative Mike Lynch from District 65, running in the competitive Congressional District 4 in Colorado. He joined Jeff and Bill this morning discussing why he's the best candidate in CD4.
I'm old school. I believe that you don't join the Army and say, I'm going to be a general. You join the Army and say, I'm going to work my way through the ranks until I get to where I need to be. But anyway, because I've done the job, I can continue to do it in DC. And quite frankly, Jeff, personally with my life right now, my kids are newly off to college. My wife is in support. She would actually quit her job and travel back and forth with me. I'm not going to allow that place to infect me.
Lynch said he was in Holyoke campaigning in northeastern Colorado on Sunday, home of the Dragons, by the way. But Lynch says he's the right fit for the people of CD4 because he understands everything from immigration to oil and gas. Speaking of CD4, the former president endorsed Lauren Boebert despite her personal issues.
In a social media post, Trump wrote that Boebert is a, quote, proven conservative who has led the fight to impeach Joe Biden. He called Boebert a, quote, trusted American first fighter and said she has his complete and total endorsement for Colorado's 4th Congressional District. In December, Boebert announced she'd be switching districts, saying she and her family needed a, quote, fresh start. I'm Jim Forbes.
Things heating up. And once again, it looks like the Supreme Court has reversed the Colorado Supreme Court to keep Trump off the ballot. Did we get a vote yet, guys? Did you see it?
I don't have votes, but basically
I'm
it comes down to this. They here's a direct line from this decision. Conflicting state outcomes concerning the same candidate could result not just from differing views on the merits, but from variations in state law governing the proceedings that are necessary to make Section 3 disqualification determinations. So bottom line, you want to disqualify somebody for insurrection, that is a job and role of Congress, not the states. That seems to be the Supreme Court decision coming down right now. Again, this is for the reasons given, responsibility for enforcing Section 3, Amendment 14 against federal office holders and candidates rests with Congress, not the states. The judgment of Colorado Supreme Court, therefore, cannot stand.
Gotcha.
It is so ordered. The judgment of Colorado Supreme Court is reversed. The mandate shall issue forthwith. It is so ordered. And then Justice Barrett doing a concurring. And then you have Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson concurring with the judgment. I think this might have been 9-0.
Wow, that is amazing.
Wow.
All right, we'll continue talking about that. That's the big news of the morning.
Your vote
24.
counts, Colorado
Yes.
Republicans for Trump. Your
Yes,
vote
it does.
counts. My God.
24 in Lakewood, 22 in Castle Rock, and 29 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olsen, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, we're going to get to Janak Joshi here in just a second. I wanted to let you know at 9 o'clock, Chris Murray, attorney with 1st and 14th, is going to do a deep dive on this decision. But from our initial reading, it looks 9-0 that Donald Trump is going to remain on the ballot here in the state of Colorado, that this use of Amendment 14, Section 3, is not properly allocated to the states. It belongs to Congress. The Colorado Supreme Court overruled in this case. 9-0.
Ouch.
That is a really strong message on this issue. So concurrence coming from the 3 more liberal members, but not with everything. So Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson concurring with the judgment, but believing that they went a little bit too far in possibly the expansion of it. So a lot of reading in this, but here's the bottom line. Here's the important thing for state of Colorado voters, Republicans that supported Donald Trump, or anybody that voted for Donald Trump. Your vote will count tomorrow for Donald Trump. Big deal. All right, we're going to pivot here a little bit. Let's get to Congressional District 8. Janak Joshi is joining us on the VIP line. Janak, thanks so much for being a part of the Jeff and Bill show.
You're welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me too. I appreciate that. Has been a few years since I have seen you, so nice talking to you and Bill.
Absolutely. So give folks a little bit of your background and why you're choosing to run for Congressional District 8, because traditionally, or in the past, you've been part of the southern kind of Colorado Springs area.
That is correct. Well, what has been going on is we have family in Denver area, and particularly grandkids. So we have been coming there practically every week and spending time with them. So last year or so, we had been talking about moving to Denver area. And we almost bought a home a couple months ago, and it didn't work out. So we kind of started to look around, and then this thing came up about possibility of running. So we said, well, let's kind of look in a little different area this time.
And
we like.
Well, I was going to say,
yeah.
we as conservatives have no problem with people to be near their grandchildren. I think that's wonderful, and I'm glad you moved up there to be near them. Give folks a sense of your background. You spent time in the Colorado State House.
Correct. I immigrated legally about 52 years ago, and did my training in New York City area, moved to Colorado Springs, where I have practiced for 30 some years, and also part of the Southern Colorado. I used to have offices in Trinidad, La Junta, Lamar, and so on. And then about 2010, I got elected to the Colorado State House, where I served for 6 years. So got some legislative experience, and as having my own practice, I got my business experience, had over 50 employees, 2 dialysis centers. So had to deal with a lot of government and bureaucratic issues during all that time. I had a connection. Actually, I got my master's in business and healthcare administration from UNC in Greeley. So I have a connection in the district too.
So tell us why you're deciding to run for office.
Well, as you know, many of us who are first generation of immigrants, we are sometimes a little more caring for our nation. And that was one of the reasons why I ran for the State House. And right now, as you know, what is going on everywhere. And again, as you brought up the issue about grandkids, we kind of feel that, are we going to live a better life for our grandchildren like our parents and our grandparents did, or are we going to live a worse for them? And that has always bothered me. And even when I was in the State House, I would thump my fist on the table and say, you cannot steal money from my grandson. And I would vote no if they were increasing the budget or passing more bureaucracy, etc. And my principles are same, which I kind of heard you guys talking a little bit earlier. I mean, basic principles of Republican Party are small government, lower taxes, and less regulations. And that's what we have been fighting all along. And I'm still going to fight for the same thing. I'm not afraid to go against the party if any of those principles are broken. And so I think I can win this district because people are fed up everywhere. But I think, like you mentioned, we got to have some wins. And I think I can win this seat.
We're talking with Janak Joshi. He's running for Congressional District 8, currently occupied by Yadira Caraveo. Let's talk about her leadership of the district. Why is it important to replace her?
Well, I mean, in last 2 years, what has she done? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah.
What kind of issues she has helped to resolve for the district? I mean, we are seeing more and more issues, part of the Well County with the oil and gas. I mean, that was one of the revenue source for the counties and helping the school district and all that. I kind of was looking at it when I was in the State House. Now, as I kind of drive around in the district, going to different meetings and all that, I mean, most of the oil wells are just sitting idle. Nothing is moving. You see them. So that means we lost a lot of jobs, the economy went down. Of course, a lot of immigration issue like everywhere else. This district also has a lot of legal immigrants who have come here and they are doing well. And many of them are not happy that these people who break our laws and they get ahead in the line when people are waiting either to get their green card or all that. And being an immigrant, I'm extremely familiar with all those processes. So I can actually speak better than many of the people in the Congress what really is going on with the immigration.
Talking with Janak Joshi. He's running for Congressional District 8. Janak, right before you came on, like literally seconds before you got on the radio, U.S. Supreme Court deciding, and it's official, unanimously to overturn the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. Give us your perspective on this. You're reading right now on this issue.
Well, I'm not surprised. I think what Colorado Supreme Court did was they kind of stepped over their authority in this particular case. By the way, I have already endorsed President Trump for this election. His policies were great. I mean, we already know he kept the economy going well. Right now, they say, oh, the inflation is down and the unemployment is also down. But anybody has gone to the grocery store recently and seen the prices? I mean, everywhere you go, I mean, prices seems like almost double of anything you want to buy.
I have to interrupt here for a second, though. Is that a function of government? Are those higher prices we're paying a function of government?
Well, because the government is controlling the fiscal policy.
Well, hang on a sec. Wait, hold on. How is the government controlling prices? Fiscal policy is different. You're complaining about price in the grocery store. How is the government controlling the prices you're paying in the grocery store, to be fair?
Sure. Because what happens is when the interest rates are high, and if the economy is not doing well, or if it costs the businesses more to do the business, the prices go up. So right now, if I'm a business, I'm trying to borrow some money from the bank, and now the bank is charging more, I'm going to charge you as a consumer more. And this kind of slowly gets passed on and on and on. And so
then how do we then, with respect,
is important.
How do we then have corporations making record profits if they are so squeezed, so tight that they can't possibly afford these loans? How are they repeatedly over the past 4 years reporting record profits? And I can go through a list of GM, Pepsi, Coca-Cola. I mean, there's a long list of them. How does that happen then, functionally?
Right. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, or maybe only 2 weeks ago, Wall Street Journal had an article where big businesses are laying off people. And one company started, and then nothing happened. So the next company started, and then the next company started. And they were saying that this is like a domino effect. Let's lay off the people because nothing is going to happen and our profit margin keeps on going up. So what we as a consumer pay on the grocery store or somewhere else versus how the big companies are working on their books, they are two different issues.
Yeah, I get that, but that's a function of the market, not a function of the government. And that's where I was going. I think that when you're saying that Biden is responsible for higher prices you're paying the grocery store, functionally, I don't think that's backed up by how economics works. But I've got a question for you that came from the text messages, and I think this is a fair question. I want to give you a chance to ask it. You just moved into CD8. You talked about how you want to be closer to the grandkids, and that's a wonderful reason. I love the fact that you're coming closer to Denver, that you want to keep the family connected. Talk about getting to know the district. What can you bring with your outside experience into the district? What are you hearing from the voters in the district? And I want to have you create some delineation as far as competitive advantage. What makes you then the better candidate inside CD8 versus a candidate that would say, well, I've been here for so long and you're just coming in and late terming it? What do you think? Talk to me about CD8 and what you're hearing there.
Sure. CD8, the basic issues remains the same right now all over the country. I mean, the economy, jobs, inflation, immigration, those issues are always there. The housing is also another big problem right now too. And again, that kind of ties into the fiscal policy and the interest rates. What I am bringing is, as I said, I am a first generation immigrant. The CD8, almost 40% of it is Hispanic. So many of them have immigrated to this country. There are other immigrants from Middle East, India, Pakistan, and so on. So I can actually relate with them a lot better as a immigrant myself and understand their issues and what they are going through. Number two, as a businessman, I also understand what businesses are going through. A lot of people are being laid off, so on and so forth. Also, the healthcare has been another problem since we got Obamacare. And as a retired physician who ran his own practice, I also understand some of those issues very well. And then being in the state house, I mean, even though you get elected from a particular district, but you have to deal with everything that happens all over the state. So being there for 6 years, and I served on education, finance, appropriation, healthcare, health insurance. I served on so many different committees that I have actually gathered a pretty good experience understanding the issues.
We're talking with Janak Joshi. He's a candidate for Congressional District 8. One of your opponents in the Republican primary is Gabe Evans. Why are you better to serve than Gabe Evans?
Well, Gabe is a nice person. We are just talking about the experience. I have been in the state house for 6 years. I ran my own businesses and everything. And as a congressman, you don't deal with just crime or those issues. You have to deal with everything. And I have a very varied experience, as I said, being an entrepreneur, as a physician with the healthcare, being in the state house for 6 years. Also, something that we will be dealing with is the foreign policy. I mean, all these wars going around, Israel and Hamas and all that. I have actually traveled in almost 126 countries and territories. I have been to Israel twice. Actually, I don't think anybody has been to West Bank. Actually, I went to Ramallah and met with the Palestinians. I have been to Cuba. I visited a former Soviet Union when it was still a communist country. I spent 2 weeks over there. For the healthcare, I have looked at the health systems of Germany, England, Spain, Netherlands, all that back in the 90s when we were trying to bring the socialized medicine. I wrote an article op-ed in Gazette at that time that why are we doing this? They all were telling us don't do it. So I have a lot of different experience. And I have been a very good supporter of the Republican Party over the years. I have supported both as a delegate to many state and county assemblies and have supported also financially and otherwise many of our former congressmen and senators, etc. So I kind of understand how the party system works. So
Janak, I'm going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions here. We're talking with Janak Joshi, who is running for Congressional District 8 to unseat Yadira Caraveo. Immigration, would you support deportation, mass deportation with immigration?
Yes.
Great. Let's talk about sanctity of life. Would you support a national ban on abortion?
If it comes, I will, but I have a feeling that we are not going to have it. Even Trump wants to have a compromise.
Would you support invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Biden from office?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as a medical person, I can see he's not fit.
That's probably one of the best answers we've had. Do you think it's just age? Do you think that's just the problem that Joe Biden's facing right now, or do you think it's cognitive?
Oh, I think it is cognitive. I mean, people are, including myself, I mean, you could be extremely well. It kind of depends on a lot of things. And we have a lot of people who are there in their age, but they function very well. And I think he has some other issues going on. And I have never met the guy, so I can't tell you how. All my medical judgment comes from how he behaves that I see on TV and definitely they must be feeding him some drugs to keep him kind of stimulated.
We'll have to see how he performs on the State of the Union this Thursday. Janak Joshi, his website is janak4cd8.com. His first name is spelled Janak, Janak for cd8.com. You can learn more about him. He's in the race in a Republican primary against Gabe Evans, seeking to unseat eventually Yadira Caraveo in a very competitive district. So this is one you're going to want to watch. And Janak, we hope you'll join us on the program in the future.
Yeah, please.
Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate having me. And the website again, janak4cd8.com.
All right, friends, we're going to continue this breaking news coverage. Unanimous 9-0. The U.S. Supreme Court siding with the Trump campaign and the Republican Party of Colorado and overturning the Colorado Supreme Court's efforts and the state attorney general's efforts to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. This is big news, breaking news. Colorado continues to be on the wrong side of U.S. Supreme Court decisions. Jack Phillips, 303 Creative, and now this unanimously shutting down the U.S. or the state Supreme Court's decision to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. So what does this mean for you? It means that your vote for him in the primary, which is tomorrow, the Super Tuesday, or if you voted already via mail, dropped off your ballot, your vote for Donald Trump will count. I have called for Jenna Griswold to resign on Twitter. She's an embarrassment to the state. The fact that she pushed so hard for this means that she clearly doesn't understand constitutional law. She is supposed to be a referee, a neutral referee when it comes to our election. She is a partisan hack, and she should resign right now. She is a national embarrassment to this state, and I'm glad to see that the U.S. Supreme Court overturned this with strength. By the way, in the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by Chris Murray, who will dive into this case in its entirety. We'd love to hear your phone calls. Are you thrilled with this decision? 303-696-1971.
Did they make a mistake?
Did the U.S. Supreme Court make a mistake? That's a good question, Bill. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get to your calls and text. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Ceasefire and hostage release negotiations are ongoing in Cairo, with Egyptian media reporting significant progress towards a deal. Key mediators, the US, Qatar and Egypt, are desperately trying to secure an agreement before the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Here's more from Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv.
Israel has so far refused to send a delegation to this latest round of talks in Cairo, with Hamas saying that it will not give over a list of captives that do remain alive inside the Gaza Strip. There is, of course, also this hurdle over the end to the war, with Hamas demanding a complete ceasefire, a pull-out of Israeli troops from Gaza, which is something that Israel says it will not do, as this would leave Hamas in power.
4 new arrivals are due on the International Space Station tomorrow after a SpaceX rocket launched 3 US astronauts and a Russian cosmonaut from Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Sunday. They'll be there for 6 months, with their biggest job overseeing the arrival of 2 new rocket ships, including Boeing's new Starliner capsule. They'll also be conducting experiments on replicas of human organs to see how disease evolves in low gravity, which is important to know for longer duration missions. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
We're going to go to Blake here in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Breaking news, 9-0. U.S. Supreme Court overturns Colorado Supreme Court's decision to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. A state can't just decide Amendment 14, Section 3 issues that is reserved for Congress. No matter where you fall on Donald Trump, this is good because it's really going to tamper down the chaos that could have taken place around this election, states determining who and who cannot be on a ballot. So give us a call. Are you thrilled with this decision, or did the Supreme Court make the wrong decision? And you think Donald Trump should be off the ballot? Phone number is 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Once again, Colorado in the national news over a Supreme Court issue. Jack Phillips, 303 Creative, and now this. I wish things would change. I really wish things would change and people would get the message in the state, especially our state Supreme Court. All right, let's go to Blake with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Morning. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. This is huge across the nation. It's going to be huge in the race as the campaign continues. We'll hear from legal correspondent Ken Delanian about the Trump news here in Colorado. And also, obviously, we've heard a lot about the California and all the snow and rain. Drivers in California dealing with challenges once again today. So, man, some stuff going on in California. And we'll have that and much more coming up at the top of the hour.
All right, Bill, what do you think of? Thanks, Blake. What do you think of this decision? Where's your mind go on it?
I think this is wonderful. I think this is a nice smackdown to both Phil Weiser and Jenna Griswold. The problem I've had the entire time has been the simple idea that the structure in our elections would allow a Secretary of State to decide who committed insurrection. I understand the idea of being the gatekeeper of, were you born here? Are you of the right age?
Right.
Those simple things. But when we are talking about a potential crime, that's a little different. I fail to see how or when our system had been set up so that the one person without any form of due process or anything else gets to make that particular decision. I understand the argument that, well, I'm supposed to adjudicate who has the ability to appear on the ballot. Yes, but that's fairly narrowly defined.
Right.
And that's the issue, is that we have to understand here in America, voting for the stupid candidate is okay. And we do that on both sides. That is allowed. The idea now, okay. People have always talked about, in order to vote, we need to have a civics test, and then you would get an ID to vote and everything else. I will get on board with a civics test for the voters after we do a civics test for the candidates. I'm not talking a single thing about the voters until we get them for candidates. And so
appreciate that.
I would. It would be great. But again, that would be qualifications. But we don't have any of those. We don't. I mean, you could have someone coming from the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster and say that my major platform is the fact that we need free spaghetti every Thursdays, and I'm going to make that my national stance. That and everybody gets a meatball on Saturday. I mean, if that's your platform, fine, go right ahead, have fun. I'm going to enjoy your rallies, but I think
free
we're allowed
meatballs
to do
at
that.
the rallies.
Yes,
too.
exactly. I think we're allowed to do that. I think that functionally makes us different than so many other countries that, yes, sometimes embrace the stupidity, and we should be able to sort it out. And that's kind of on us, because if it isn't on us, then we have to say that's on our betters to make the choices for us. And that's not how this country was set up. I'm going to talk to the phones.
Yeah, phones are starting to light up again. 303-696-1971. Tell us what your thoughts are on this. I'll give you mine here as it's coming in, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. All right. What got me really worked up about this when this case was first introduced was that these people were all screaming about election integrity and the importance of protecting democracy and the threat that Donald Trump was to our democracy. And we had to step in for the sake of our republic in order to stop this man. There was this kind of superhero idea that they were coming to the rescue. Here we are, Mario Nicolais and Kristen and all those folks We are stepping in to try to defend the republic. And I'm sitting there going, no, you are directly interfering with democracy by even making this argument and dragging us through this and getting the Secretary of State and the Attorney General of Colorado all in on this. You are actually compromising my vote on this. All in the name of defending the republic and democracy? Are you giving me a break? It was the hypocrisy, the utter hypocrisy of the entire effort that just drove me absolutely crazy about this. You know, these people desperate to defend democracy. So the fact that it was shut down 9-0, it was like the adults finally stepped in and looked at the broader implications of this as it relates to the republic and the future of our country and democracy, and said, finally, we're going to get some clarity on this. We're going to put the adults in the room, and we can't have states one by one picking who can be on the ballot and who not. That will result in the dissolving of our nation. So I'm very glad to see this. I'm glad to see that those that tried to do this were shut down, not 5-4, not 8-1, unanimously. You cannot interfere with people trying to support their candidate and choosing who they think would be best simply based upon your reading of Amendment 14, Section 3. So that's why I was worked up. I think Jenna Griswold is an embarrassment to this state, going back to her taking talking points from Planned Parenthood. This job of Secretary of State should be the least controversial job. I mean, to Tim Young's credit, I never read about Tim Young in the newspapers.
Yeah.
I hardly even think about the guy. He is the, what is he? He's the treasurer.
Yep.
He's the treasurer of the state, right? Don't get into the politics. Stay out of it. The attorney general, maybe. The governor, lieutenant governor, yes. But if you're the secretary of the state or you're the treasurer of the state, I don't want to read about your job in the newspaper. Your opinion doesn't matter. And if you end up with a 9-0 slapdown from the U.S. Supreme Court, you should hang your head in shame, walk out that door, and no one should ever think about you again for the rest of this state's history.
Well, I'm just hoping that, Jeff, later before the end of the show, that you'll tell the listener how you really feel. That it really expose your heart and your emotion behind that. That was fantastic. And I love the idea, and we'll get to Dwayne in a second. I love the idea where you talked about them coming to the rescue.
Yes.
That, I think, was the mistake in their entire thought process here, that somehow this was a system that needed to be rescued, and especially that we were going to place that power inside of one office. Oftentimes, I have the phrase, if you would have thought about this for more than 120 seconds, you would have probably come to a different conclusion.
Yeah.
And I say that here too. If you would have thought about the idea for 120 seconds as to if the Secretary of State, that singular office, is granted this type of purview, you would say, no, I obviously have ingested a psychedelic and I need to go talk to somebody about
it. All right, let's go to Dwayne in Divide, Colorado. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, gentlemen. I hope your day is bright and sunny. We are up here in the mountains enjoying our extremely windy weekend and only got half an inch of snow.
Yeah, we ended up with the same thing out in Elizabeth, man. I had to muck stalls all weekend in the wind, and we had to keep the barn doors shut and all that stuff. But great to hear from you. What do you think of this decision, Dwayne?
Well, it's something that never should have happened, much like my marriage to the redhead and stepkid. It's one of those things that, like, nothing should have gone on. The fact that all these other states are running up trying to sit there and say, no, wait, I've got a different letter or word to try and put this out. I'm glad to see the Supreme Court, as you said, Jeff, came out as adults and slapped this down.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're so worried about Donald Trump being such a bad candidate and Joe Biden, that vibrant sex beast that I understand he is with his wife, and he's able to do all these things, and yet we see him, but you'll see Corinne there telling us he's a vibrant man. He doesn't need to have any problems. Would somebody just take out a phone
and capture this on film.
I
or,
know,
or
I
video?
know. They all talk about that. Here's a funny text, Dwayne. Did Jeff just call Sonia Sotomayor or an adult in the room?
Well, yeah, please. She's not even worthy and actually even competent to be on the Supreme Court. No, I mean, do you know her legal background? She's not even. I mean,
I know
she's
she was
not
from
really
the Bronx, right? That's all I
Well,
really know
yeah.
about her.
I mean, as a New York, I mean, I'm a Brooklyn kid and an American citizen through the Brooklyn federal courts. But she's not really even qualified legally to be in that rare air of the Supreme Court.
Qualifications are not a big requirement for the left with regards to their decisions.
But people on the left would throw issues on qualifications on people on the right as well. So I mean, both sides will take issue on either one of them. So yeah.
So Dwayne, I got a question for you. As an astute political observer, the Republicans are making the argument that the Washington D.C. is the swamp. It's controlled by elitists. That they try to rig everything. Does this decision bolster the Republican argument this November that the swamp needs to be addressed? That the elites that try to control everything try to, directly kind of adjust democracy, tinker with democracy in order to get their candidates elected. Do you think this bolsters the Republican argument this fall?
I'd ask Bill to come over and slap you upside the head lightly to knock those rose-colored glasses off your face there, Jeff. We are in a battle right now worldwide. I mean, you take out the 1 and 2 and you go back. This is the 1900s coming back. We have issues with Ukraine. We have the Muslim situation, which started in World War I, by the way, and other options going on. There's not much that's changed. We've got the world power people or whatever that guy is wearing that Star Trek outfit. All he needs is a white cat and to sit there and go, "It is okay, Pussy Willy Galore. You and I are going to take the world. Elections will no longer be needed due to AI." I mean, we have just flipped another century with the same problems.
Yeah.
The rich people are trying to get richer. They're destroying us on the inside. And when you see that we have people, the illegal aliens, I'm sorry, they can't call them anything else. That's what they are.
They're newcomers.
By definition.
By the way,
yes, I know
do you see
newcomers.
that? Do you see the Biden administration is now referring to them as newcomers, and the city of Denver refers to them as newcomers, as if they plan to keep them here all along?
Well, I hope that Denver, when it goes up in flames, doesn't come down too far to sit there and try and claim new property. The situation is we have powder kegs ready to go. And every time we have this situation of where we sit there and go, well, the illegals are going, the people that are in our country, the low income, low level, they're going to revolt. Everybody sits there and says, "Oh, Dwayne, you're overthinking this." No, because as soon as you take away enough from someone and they're seeing somebody else getting it, human nature, they're going to sit there and demand to get it back.
Yeah.
And we are going to have revolts. We're going to have street fights like there's no business. And if you guys can get past my 2 semi-automatic looking machine guns at my driveway, they're not real, but the cops know that. And, everybody else, they come to that, they see it, they move. So I've got them on lasers and everything else. People don't come up the driveway. I'm very happy with that.
Dwayne from Divide, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much, friends. We'll get to your text messages and calls about this. Again, breaking news, U.S. Supreme Court decides 9-0 to overturn the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. What does that mean for you? It means your vote on your ballot or tomorrow for Super Tuesday for the Republican primary, Donald Trump will count if you chose to do so. So big news coming from the Supreme Court, 9-0 decision. Guys, generally, we hear talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues. Today, I want to talk to you about love. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most men, you want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with erectile dysfunction, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and your partner. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and has successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult with a licensed medical provider, a T and PSA test, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if the test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. They have 5 locations in Colorado: Fort Collins, North Denver, Central Denver, Castle Rock, and Colorado Springs. Stop dealing with the lack of confidence that ED brings. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
good vibes here in the state of Colorado, as Donald Trump will be on the ballot for you to vote for if you choose to do so. Freedom finds another day, even though the Colorado Supreme Court tried to take Donald Trump off the ballot. Jenna Griswold tried to take Trump off the ballot. The U.S. Supreme Court in a 9-0 decision overturning the Colorado Supreme Court and allowing your vote to count. So if you've already voted for him, or you choose to vote for him between now and tomorrow, Super Tuesday, or if he wins the nomination and you want to vote for him this November for president in Colorado, you are allowed to. It's amazing me even saying this, Bill. It sounds like I'm just, what should be just normal democratic process. I'm like, congratulations, you can vote for the candidate you want to.
This is
in
a
America.
And the one thing I want to know from listener texters, a great question, and had a great conversation off the air with Joe from Arvada. Again, I'm going to repeat that slowly because I did not think I was going to be saying that sentence anytime soon. I had a wonderful, great conversation with Joe from Arvada off the air, and he made an excellent point. Again, he made an excellent point. He wants to know, do we think there's going to be any blowback on the Colorado Supremes that ruled Donald Trump should be taken off the ballot? Because I do think there are some rocks that can be thrown given how stark the difference in the rulings are.
Yep.
Because I firmly believe the U.S. Supreme Court got this right. And I think my feeling is that the Colorado Supremes were closing the loop that the judge started. The judge said, here's the story I can tell, but I'm not going to find this, and then left it up for the Supremes to come in and finish the job. That's what I feel the Colorado Supreme Court did. I believe the U.S. Supreme Court adequately and correctly adjudicated this one, but is there any blowback? Would you look at some of those Colorado Supreme Court judges and say, maybe if this is your filter, maybe you shouldn't be in that in that job?
And it's not just this; it's Jack Phillips, it's 303 Creative too.
It's a series.
It's like as conservatives within the kind of think tank world, it's like you're going to lose all the way through the Colorado process until you get out of here. So we've become this like hellhole of unconstitutional law. And I think that the lawmakers down in at the Colorado State Capitol know this. Ooh. And they're part of their calculation is, well, we can get 5 or 6 years out of this. So they're going to press these anti-gun bills, for instance, right?
That's an interesting
that
idea.
are clearly, in some cases, clearly unconstitutional. They, like an assault weapons ban, they will pass that. It'll get signed into law. They'll get 5 or 6 years out of it. The U.S. Supreme Court will smack it down. Has there ever been a price to pay?
No.
This will be part of my conversation with Chris Murray when we come back. It's like, if you're a judge in the Colorado Supreme Court, do you just shrug today and go, well, I'm going to go back to ignoring other judges that are drinking, which was a story that happened today. Anyways. So
it's a great
Chris
question.
Murray's going to join us next to dissect the U.S. Supreme Court case on Trump v. Anderson. You're not going to want to miss this. You got to stick around. This is key. You're going to be enlightened listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Speaking of dumpster fires, that's Jenna Griswold's career that you smell baking right now as she
how's that run for governor going to work out?
Yeah, I know. Just saunter off into the sunset, my friend, and you'll make all of our lives better. In a second, Chris Murray, brilliant attorney, served the state party for years, Harvard educated, is going to dive into this Supreme Court decision. If you missed it, breaking news today, 9-0 from the U.S. Supreme Court overturning the Colorado Supreme Court's decision that Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection and ergo should not be on the ballot, according to the 14th Amendment, Section 3. What does this mean for you? It means that when you vote for Donald Trump, either in your ballot that you've already submitted or tomorrow at the polls for Super Tuesday, your vote will count. If you choose to vote for him in November, your vote will count. It sounds crazy that this is breaking news in what should be America, but in many ways we've become a
we
third
get to vote
world.
for who we want.
I know, a
Wow.
third world dictatorship.
Breaking news.
Congratulations.
Your vote counts. The details coming from Blake.
Yeah, but speaking of that, let's go to Blake Olsen with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. Yeah, welcome back to America. 34 and mostly sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 50s. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, former President Trump will remain on the presidential primary ballot in Colorado. The state Supreme Court earlier ruled to remove Trump from the ballot, claiming he was an insurrectionist. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled with no dissent. Legal correspondent Ken Delanian.
We've learned that it was a 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can be on the ballot in Colorado and other states. Justices during the oral argument seemed very skeptical of the idea that one state could decide for the nation whether Donald Trump was an insurrectionist and was therefore disqualified under this 150-year-old provision.
Jenna Griswold drives the lane.
Competitive juice is flowing. Come on in here.
It's March Madness. Janak Joshi running in Colorado Congressional District 8 on with you guys, loves this country, and he feels like he can further the conservative message on with Jeff and Billy.
Basic principles of Republican Party are small government, lower taxes, and less regulation. And that's what we have been fighting all along. And I'm still going to fight for the same thing. I'm not afraid to go against the party if any of those principles are broken. And so I think I can win this district.
He also said that Joe Biden is not fit to be president. Love that. Mike Lynch also on with the fellas this morning, running in CD4.
I'm old school. I believe that you don't join the army and say, I'm going to be a general. You join the army and say, I'm going to work my way through the ranks until I get to where I need to be. But anyway, because I've done the job, I can continue to do it in DC. And quite frankly, Jeff, personally with my life right now, my kids are newly off to college. My wife is in support. She would actually quit her job and travel back and forth with me. I'm not going to allow that place to infect me.
Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has won her first primaries, no surprise, in Washington, D.C., the swamp. Drivers in California dealing with heavy snow and life-threatening conditions around Lake Tahoe. One wind gust was clocked at 190 miles per hour. Award-winning ESPN journalist Chris Mortensen, who covered the NFL for 30 years. I used to work alongside him in Dallas in the Cowboys locker room. He was battling throat cancer for 8 years, and a sad story, he passed away Sunday at the age of 72. Nuggets go for 7 straight tomorrow night against the Suns. See you. They have won 4 straight. They beat Stanford 81-71 over the weekend. The Avalanche play host to the Blackhawks. 30 in Arvada, 32 in Highlands Ranch, 34 in Denver. One more time. I was hoping to play it one more time just because I love it. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olsen, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Oh, Jenna Griswold, you make me want to just celebrate. Big breaking news today. 9-0 Supreme Court overturns Colorado Supreme Court decision to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. One of the most brilliant attorneys I know is Chris Murray. He's an attorney with 1st and 14th. He's going to break down this case for us. Chris, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning, fellas. My pleasure to be here.
So let's dive into it, my friend. Give us the lowdown on this decision from the U.S. Supreme Court this morning.
Well, it's a 9-0 reversal, which I think last time I was on your show,
you predicted.
That's what I thought was coming, and it's actually in exactly the form that I thought it would come, which is a per curiam reversal, which means no justice signed this opinion. Per curiam is Latin for the court, right? Which means just here it is. This is what the whole court agrees with. There are a couple concurrences. A concurrence by the liberal justices, Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, and also a concurrence by Justice Barrett. Those concurrences tend to focus on how limited Congress's ability is or is not to, by legislation, potentially provide for state enforcement of the 14th Amendment against presidential candidates. But the opinion from the Supreme Court says, hey, look, unlike other parts of the 14th Amendment that give you civil rights, the disqualification clause in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment takes away civil rights, specifically the rights to run for and hold offices. Because it takes away rights, there has to be due process, and Congress has to be the author of what that process is. And because there's no process that's been provided for by Congress here, the Colorado Supreme Court and the Colorado Secretary of State, and any other state for that matter, are not free to just willy-nilly say, hey, we agree with the J6 Commission and we're going to take away your right to run for president.
Do you think this was a good decision, Chris Murray, in your perspective?
Yeah, no, I think it's an absolutely correct decision. As I said, I mean, listen. And by the way, I think it's a good decision, even for, and I would encourage people, even people who think that Donald Trump isn't the best candidate for the presidency, or maybe shouldn't be running for the presidency, right? I would encourage those people to take a really hard look at this and realize that what this decision essentially says is, look, the law applies to everybody equally, and we're not going to allow the emotional tenor of one moment in history to damage the process for electing a president going forward.
Jenna Griswold responded, I am disappointed in the U.S. Supreme Court's decision stripping states of the authority to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of for federal candidates. Colorado should be able to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists, I think she misspelled that, insurrections, from our ballot.
Yeah, then she also said, nah, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say, that's off being 6-2. I think that was the follow-up.
So Jenna still believes states should have that power to do so. What say you, Chris Murray?
Well, and then, so first thing, the idea that this decision has stripped the states of anything, like in order to be stripped of something, you had to have it in the first place. and what this decision says is, no, you never had that authority. And actually remember, it was a bare majority of the Colorado Supreme Court, 4 out of the 7 justices. The other 3 justices said, no, we don't have this authority. And by the way, they were correct, right? So those 3 dissenting justices on our state Supreme Court are probably having a pretty good morning.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this. Because if You're a member of the Colorado Supreme Court that voted to remove Donald Trump from the ballot, or at least that the state had the ability to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. And you get smacked down in a 9-0 decision. What's going through your mind? Are they shrugging it off, going about their business? Because we've had other Supreme Court decisions from this state smacked down by the U.S. Supreme Court, and it doesn't seem to change anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I would say I would hope it would give those 4 justices just a little bit of pause, in that this was a 9-0 decision, and surely, surely, there are justices on the U.S. Supreme Court who are not fans of Donald Trump, right? We know that.
Yeah.
And but they didn't let their personal view of Donald Trump color their what their decision was, right, and their view of the Constitution. And I say kudos to them. And I would hope that the 4 justices on the Colorado Supreme Court who asserted this state authority to disqualify candidates for the presidency just have a little bit of a moment of introspection and say, it's sort of a shame that we got reversed on exactly the lines that our dissenting colleagues, particularly Justice Carlos Zamora, told us we would get reversed on.
I hope they would have more than a little bit of pause. I hope they're having serious career reflections going, gosh, I seem to really miss this. And those that, I mean, right, like the practice of law is about precedent. It's about the idea that, there's some consistency that moves through the court systems. And those that are above me really smack me down in a major national way. I hope there's a little bit more than just a pause of reflection, maybe a career change, maybe a retirement, maybe move on to something else. I'm sure there's other things they could do with their time.
That's a good question, Jeff. I mean, Chris, do you think there is any chance for any sort of blowback against the Colorado Supreme Court? Joe from Arvada called in off air and was asking about that last hour. Is there any possible consequences for these Colorado justices that seem to have erred so egregiously?
I mean, so, as far as their jobs go, I would say no, there's zero possibility of that. I mean, because look, the way it works in Colorado is every 10 years, Supreme Court justices are up for a retention election. And I mean, I'm sure there's probably a few voters out there who are saying, boy, they got this one wrong, and that's just the straw that broke the camel's back.
10 years
for me,
from now, I'm going to hold on to that.
Right. But look, the truth is, even state Supreme Court justices get stuff wrong. Even U.S. Supreme Court justices get stuff wrong.
I've heard that happens with talk show hosts too sometimes, but not all the time, just occasionally.
Well, not on this show.
Yeah, never here. No. Well, never with my
But,
partner, maybe me, but yes.
I just don't see any of that kind of blowback. I'm sure, though, judges, or especially state Supreme Court justices, look, they're proud folks. They've got important jobs, and they would certainly prefer to be right rather than wrong. And I would think that professionally, sort of within the legal world, there will be some there'll probably be some reckoning there, in the sense that they'll have to say, geez, how did we get this so wrong?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, when they go to the special judge, bars.
I was going to say,
yeah,
the cocktail parties, you're going to be looked down upon now.
Oh, those are the Colorado.
Fewer cocktail weenies for you this year.
Yes.
Let's get into the larger question about lawfare. I mean, to anybody with, 2 brain cells, you see what's happening to Donald Trump, and you see 99 indictments, every possible liberal court out there throwing every wrench they possibly can to try to stop his presidency. Does our nation now kind of give pause to all the other cases that he's dealing with and go, maybe this isn't that healthy for our country?
I mean, I would hope so. I'll also say, and look, this is going to be a lawyer answer, right? But of all of the cases that are out there against Donald Trump, this effort to disqualify him as a presidential candidate, I have always viewed as among the absolute weakest of them.
Yeah.
And that's just because the 14th Amendment does not support this. It does not support a state-by-state disqualification of a presidential candidate. It never has. And frankly, after this opinion, there's a real question about whether Congress even could allow for that sort of state enforcement for presidential candidates. So I would hope it would give pause. I mean, because look, there are so many laws in this country, guys. There are so many, some might say too many, way too many. And what I would hope it would give folks pause on is that whatever you think of Donald Trump, it is very difficult with a straight face to say that anybody but Donald Trump would be facing the multi-front legal assault that he is facing, both from well-financed private individuals and, even more importantly, from state, local, and federal governments. And I think the case, in New York, right, where he's having a hard time posting an appeals bond, is sort of exhibit A on that, right? A practice that maybe a lot of folks shouldn't engage in, right, which is telling the tax man one thing about the value of your property and the bank another thing, right? Nobody in their right mind thinks that should endanger your business license and subject you to a fraud prosecution.
Yeah, but I would push back a little bit on that one, only because, and the only reason why I think that inside the New York, the fraud case steps to a different level than just giving different valuations is he didn't give just different valuations. He gave different square footage. He gave different rules about whether or not it was a social club or whether it was a private residency. He represented a property that was losing money as a property that was earning money, and by millions of dollars. To me, that's a little bit more than saying that my $400,000 house is actually worth $500,000. That's like saying that my 3,000 square foot apartment is now, I don't know, 30,000 square feet. That to me rises to a different level. And yeah, I use that number on purpose, but just personally.
And Bill, again, I think that's fair on the particulars of the case. I'll also say the banks that Donald Trump was doing business with did their diligence, and trust me, I am sure that they knew, right, about the differences between what he represented and what was the fact, and they just wanted to loan him money. Donald Trump is not the only person, right, to ever have engaged in this, and that doesn't make it right. But the fact that Donald Trump is the only person who's being prosecuted for it and threatened to lose his business license tells you something about, right, the environment that we're in. I think if everybody was being prosecuted for this and Donald Trump was just another one, just a high-profile example of somebody who got caught with his pants down in that way, I think everybody would say, well, them's the breaks.
Right. If Letitia James was the great crusader against property evaluation, deception, and those types of things.
And I get that, and I think that is a very fair point, Jeff and Chris. The only thing for me that I come back to is that at the core, the only reason that Donald Trump is in that situation in New York is because he did the crime. It's the only reason. He did the fraud. If he had not done the fraud, even if Letitia James is completely and totally political in persecuting him and prosecuting him, if he didn't do the fraud,
don't open the door. We're going to continue with
Yeah.
Chris Murray here. But guys, I got to tell you, if you're losing your hair and you need a simple solution that works, you want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with one of the most experienced professionals around. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. We're talking with Chris Murray. He's an attorney with 1st and 14th. Chris, this decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, will it affect the decisions coming out of Maine and Illinois with regards to Donald Trump on the ballot?
Yeah, absolutely. It will absolutely involve these because what the Supreme Court has ruled is that states do not have the authority to disqualify presidential candidates under the 14th Amendment on the law as it stands right now. So whatever the basis for those different disqualification proceedings, I saw the decision from Illinois, the decision from Maine, there's others pending. I think all these cases go away. Donald Trump will be on the ballot in all these states.
So what do you think the left's going to do now with the requirement that Congress has to try to essentially lay the pathwork or lay the pathway for someone to be found guilty of insurrection? If you were a legal strategist and either Donald Trump or a future conservative, you wanted to try to keep off the ballot for engaging in, quote, insurrection, what would you be doing? What's Chuck Schumer doing right now? What's Hakeem Jeffries thinking right now?
Well, I think that, I think so let me say what's really interesting about this decision. I think the Supreme Court and all 9 justices have tried to look into the future a little bit, right? They see our political moment and they know that this will go beyond Trump, right? Once you start making this precedent, I think they're worried about the next person that somebody wants to disqualify, whether they're a conservative or a liberal, right? I think they're worried about that getting worse, which is why I think they went out of their way in this opinion to say, hey, disqualification under the 14th Amendment, especially for a presidential candidate, probably shouldn't be happening in the states anyway. Which obviously leaves open the possibility that they could be disqualified under some kind of a federal procedure. So if I am Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and because, one of the things that liberals think is that, well, the law will never be used against us, right? So imagine that they're thinking of the only people who will ever get disqualified are bad conservatives. So I would be looking at, if I take over the Congress and I have the presidency, passing some kind of an insurrection act, passing some kind of a law, which provides for charges, maybe to be brought by the Attorney General or a vote of Congress, and for the trial on those issues to be held in Washington, D.C., where, you're going to probably have the most favorable forum for liberal politicians versus conservative politicians.
It'll be interesting to see how they do that. I think your analysis is exactly right with regards to the left, that they never think it's going to apply to them.
Because they're right.
Nuclear option,
yeah,
for
well,
instance,
I think
right?
it's because
remember that one?
Yeah, the left is assured of their righteousness. And so the idea of them having any sort of consequences for their stupid choices, I think that's part of the problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, just imagine though, for example, if you passed the Federal Insurrection Act and said, hey, somebody's going to be tried in a federal district court.
Yeah.
But which federal district court is decided by a random lottery draw, right? I think that the left would be a lot more concerned about the possibilities for the venue, right? And what might happen to them if they were worried about the law being applied anywhere outside of Washington.
So when we interviewed Nikki Haley, I said that she might, Colorado might be the first state she wins because Donald Trump may not be on the ballot. She won yesterday in Washington, D.C. Congratulations on winning the swamp. Not a state. That's right.
Good point.
And I don't think she's going to win Colorado. She may not win any states. It might just be D.C., the district, that gets her. We're going to have to find out tomorrow with Super Tuesday. Well, Chris Murray, thank you, attorney at 1st and 14th. By the way, tell us what 1st and 14th, your new firm, is all about.
Yeah, that's a new name.
Yeah, it is. So actually, I left Brownstein along with my partner, Julian Ellis. We finished at Brownstein just last week, and we formed a new law firm called 1st and 14th. We joined up with some folks who had previously constituted the Nussbaum-Gleason firm. We're focused on public and political litigation, religious liberties litigation, and representing conservative and religiously affiliated entities. So we also do some high stakes commercial litigation, which has always been part of my practice. But today's the first day in the office. I'm looking at a bunch of boxes that I have to unpack right now.
Hey, all right. Congratulations. I'm
This
so
is a
excited for you.
big move. Congratulations.
Yeah, and if folks,
Wonderful.
Yeah, and if your listeners want to check this firm out, they can go to www.first-14th, all spelled out, .com.
.com. We'll be checking it out, and it sounds like your litigation is going to be needed in this state because we never learn our lesson,
Yes.
or we just don't care and keep to run through totally unconstitutional laws and then prosecuting people. So it sounds like you're in a great space.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's maybe bad for America, but it could be good for business. So
They're spoken like a true American.
Chris
Nice job.
Murray, attorney, I guess founder, First and 14th. Appreciate you being on the program.
Thank you.
Right on, guys. Pleasure to be with you as always.
So I want to get your take. Are you thrilled with this decision by the U.S. Supreme Court? I am 9-0 because I saw it as a direct interference with our democracy, with our republic, by people that are always claiming to be scared about interference with democracy and threats to the republic. I thought it was totally hypocritical for them to even bring this case, and for the 9-0 U.S. Supreme Court to completely shut it down was brilliant. Ben, we're going to get to you in just a second. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Hey, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home Team provides exceptional service, invaluable advice, and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Gay and her experts get their clients, listen to this, an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and Empower Home Team today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Your calls and texts up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Stuart Smith, and here are the top stories we're following. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has secured her first victory of the primaries, winning Washington, D.C. Her team says it's the first time a woman has won a Republican primary. Her team said it's not surprising Republicans closest to Washington dysfunction are rejecting Donald Trump and all his chaos. His team described her win as being crowned queen of the swamp. Haley claims she's the only one who can beat incumbent Joe Biden. A US Border Patrol agent has killed a bandit who was robbing migrants crossing into the US from Mexico. It happened on Sunday near an area where migrants had handed themselves over for processing. No Border Patrol agents were harmed. The chief of US Border Patrol, Jason Owens, says this activity is another example of the dangers criminals and smugglers pose to the public, the migrants, and our agents. A 72-hour state of emergency is ongoing in Haiti after 4,000 inmates escaped two prisons. They were breached by armed gangs who stormed two major jails, one in the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince, and one in nearby Croix-des-Bouquets. The leaders say they want to force the Prime Minister, who is currently abroad, to resign. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Stuart Smith in London on Salem News Channel.
It's a beautiful day in Colorado, especially if you're a Trump voter. Congratulations. Your vote counts in this banana republic we live in. U.S. Supreme Court deciding 9-0 to overturn the Colorado Supreme Court that Donald Trump engaged in insurrection, ergo he can't be on the ballot, according to Amendment 14, Section 3, putting the onus on Congress that if they want to define insurrection and create a pathway by which people can be tried according to due process, that belongs with Congress, and that states can just willy-nilly. Jenna Griswold, I don't like him. He's not on the ballot. You can't do that. Sorry, not allowed. And it sounds like I'm in a banana republic, but this is how far the left has gone. I've got a tweet that's gone totally viral. You can see it on twitter.com/Jeff Hunt. Colorado Democrats are a far greater threat to democracy than Donald Trump is. And that one's well over 100 likes now. So feel free to engage on Twitter. Would love to have you there. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's go to Ben in Morrison. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ben.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, cool. I do think this was probably the appropriate decision by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I also feel like further federal legislation should probably be made to prevent something like this from happening again, because Donald Trump did try to cheat in the election.
What did he do to cheat in the election?
The fake electors. For one, we have him on phone calls with Ronna McDaniels.
No, Ben, what I would do is
100% aware of that.
Rather than cheat, I would have said fraud. I would have said afterwards he tried to overturn the election. That's where I would go with the language, but I would agree with you. But continue.
Yeah, basically he was trying to usurp the will of the actual voters of the state.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I don't understand why that wouldn't be considered cheating. I guess it doesn't matter.
Well,
just vernacular.
Well, the issue would be for me, the cheat would be the before. The fraud and the overturn is after. That's the only thing. If you cheat, it would be, for me, the function. And again, I'm being a nerd about it. That would be during the process. I think it afterward would be the fraud after the process, technically. But that's because I'm a dork. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but either way, like, I think if you're trying to do stuff like that, I think that should bar you from running from office kind of in the future.
Ben, can I ask
disingenuous.
you? So being honest and free and fair elections is really important to you. Question I have is, if someone poured in tens of millions of dollars to not provide free and equal access to ballot, but to turn out voters in one particular area as opposed to another that leans towards a particular candidate. So it's a strategy to kind of backfill, really pump up votes in one area. And you run that through nonprofits so as to both hide the donors as well as put a lot of money into getting one particular candidate elected. Would you call that cheating?
That's just how campaigns go these days, unfortunately. God, what was the Supreme Court decision that changed that? Where
Citizens United, that one?
Citizens United.
So corporations,
yep.
That was corporations.
All of a sudden we got super PACs that came out of that. But that's not the same thing as actually creating fraudulent electors who are coming in, who are doing stuff that it's not what the voters of that state decided. That's very, very different. There's a big difference between pumping money into an election versus...
Well, not necessarily pumping money just into an election, but we're going to run money through nonprofits. These nonprofits are then going to target very specific counties with turnout operations. So there's a tax deduction. There's no money or no taxes paid on that. The donors are hidden, and we're going to specify them to very specific districts to pump voter turnout so our numbers look inflated.
Point of information. Do we have any proof that this large billionaire that may have a last name
Mark
starting with
Zuckerberg.
Z. Yeah, I know. Do we have any indication showing that he directed any of that money once it was donated?
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, I think you could get a good sense. I think you could get a good sense of where they did the turnout, though.
That's important if the narrative is the billionaire gave this money so that it was used in these targets. Until you can demonstrate that the billionaire gave directives as to targeting those locations, your narrative doesn't work.
It's not necessarily the billionaire I'm looking at.
No, but
though.
that's what you said
But
happened.
if once you hand the money to somebody and then they go and specifically target it this way, you know what you're doing.
So, okay.
So if it was overwhelming to
Stop,
turn out to Democrat,
hang on.
Go ahead.
Hang on. Again, the question is, did Mark Zuckerberg have any oversight or ability to tell them where the money went? And
Yes,
so far,
100%.
there's no proof of that.
Oh
There's
my
been
gosh,
zero
come
proof.
on.
No, Jeff, if you want to bring the proof to the table, I'm more than happy to look at it. But so far,
Yeah.
nobody's brought any proof showing that Zuckerberg can direct that money. Also, it was a bipartisan group, and the group did direct the money on a bipartisan effort. But however, this is what we're going to have to remember. Remember how population is in this country. The population centers are largely Democrat, while rural is largely Republican. If you're going to have problems making elections functional, you're going to have them when you have lower, when the funds have been used in other areas or you don't have the funds. The problems you're going to have are going to be in the urban population centers. That is logical. That is what would happen. So it is not untoward that you would assume the majority of the money that you're using to help the turnout would go to where the people are. It would be really weird if the majority of the money went to where the people aren't. That would be a really weird thing. I just don't understand the narrative of, well, this billionaire gave a bunch of money. We can't show that he directed it. And this group targeted turnout to where the people are. Wow. I totally see the conspiracy.
You'd be really good defense attorney for Zuckerberg. Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you.
I don't get the argument either, because you also have like Koch brothers and other billionaires that do things on the other side of things. So I just
and Soros. I mean, we have a laundry list of people with piles of money. Yeah, that's piles.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of money that donate into both groups. So I don't see but I don't see how that conflates with anything that I said where, we're talking about.
No, my point is, though, you're making the effort that those
Donald Trump
that cheat should go through the insurrection process. There should be a process for them to keep it off. And I'm showing you that the other side cheats too.
No, what you're.
Yeah. Now, Ben, let me take this in a different
Joe
direction.
Biden did not cheat. He did not cheat in the last election.
Yeah.
Donald Trump
oh my gosh.
went through and created false electors.
Yeah,
he created false electors. Can you not acknowledge that?
Now, Ben, I want to take this in a different
Can you not
direction.
acknowledge that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Can
you be a big boy, put on some big boy pants, and acknowledge
be nice.
that
Wait,
he created
hang on.
false
Wait,
electors?
Ben, be nice here. Just ask him if he agrees whether or not Donald Trump created false electors. That's as far as we have to go.
I think they floated an alternative legal theory. I don't think that they engaged in insurrection.
And now the question I would have
didn't
is,
say he engaged in insurrection. He said he created false electors. Did he not?
But you said that there should be a process by which someone could be tried for insurrection via cheating, and you used the example.
I said cheating.
But that's what 14th Amendment's all about. That's what we're talking about.
And I think that's with Ben. I think that's where we're getting to, is the idea that part of the problem with the Supreme Court decision is that there's been no adjudication of insurrection. That there needs to be something, and part of that has to be a criminal case, and or it has to go through Congress. Now, Ben, I want to take this and talk about some of the other criminal cases that Trump is facing, especially the DC case, as far as it's connected here. If we're talking about holding someone responsible and talking about whether or not they committed fraud post-election, would it then not be appropriate to make sure that we get that DC case adjudicated, we get a result before the election? Shouldn't everybody in America need to know what the outcome of that court case is about Donald Trump and what he did after the election before we go vote? Do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. 100%. We should know if he was committed, if he's committed crimes, especially the document case. He is dead to rights guilty on that. He absolutely committed a crime there. And I know the Trump supporters are going to say, well, Biden did blah, 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 but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're different crimes. And if we want to hold Biden accountable, I'd be happy to. I'd be more than happy to. But the problem is, if we did,
knock your socks off.
Yeah, it opens up Trump to a lot more charges. So again, if we're going to play evens, then okay, understand that it opens up both cases.
Yeah, I don't care. Prosecute Biden.
Ben from
Yeah.
Morrison, I appreciate the
Thanks for the
call. Thanks so
conversation,
much. I'm
man.
going to end on prosecute Biden. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, I'm up for it. I'm up for it if we're going to prosecute him across the board on it. Absolutely. Pence, if we want to go through all the presidents and vice presidents that may have taken classified documents home with them, I bet we get to putting three of them in
It's
prison.
the system, believe me.
I
As
know,
someone who worked in government,
Oh, yeah,
nobody
I'm
knows
sure it
where
is.
those documents
But the
go.
issue is,
I had my own documents from when I worked in the Senate.
But I'm
just
certain,
disappear.
what I'm saying is we put three of them in prison. I'm pretty sure the system gets fixed. I'm just saying
There you go.
that might be a motivation. If we want to fix it, that might help. And I'm okay putting three of them in prison. I'm okay with that one.
Jeff on here for my friends at Dan Kaplan Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplan is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplan Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplan Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplanslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. All right, let's get to Spencer, Minneapolis. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Spencer.
Welcome.
Hey, good morning, guys. So my question is do you believe that this ruling sets up the Trump immunity ruling coming from the Supreme Court?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I
So
should ask.
let me
Chris
let me
that. Go ahead.
qualify that.
Please.
This,
Yeah, what do you
this-
think?
This tends to this. I'm reading this as saying that the legislative branch is the one that has oversight over the president, not the judiciary, and the judiciary only gets oversight when impeachment and conviction occur within the Congress and the Senate.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Spencer, you make a compelling argument. I'm not good enough
Now,
of attorney to know
now,
that.
now,
I'm
Spencer,
not an
do you
attorney
think
at all.
then? Do you think then that would lead the Supremes to say, well, obviously blanket immunity, or do you think that they go the other direction and say, well, immunity in some cases, but not post-election? How do you think this comes down?
I think they say immunity, but unless Congress impeaches and the Senate convicts, nobody has a leg to stand on.
Ooh, now,
How does the judiciary get oversight over the president even after the fact?
Yeah.
When it doesn't seem like that's how it was intended by the founding fathers.
Now that's interesting because the balance that I see between it are the three co-equal branches of government. There's supposed to be oversight of one over the other. So the idea that the judiciary couldn't have oversight over either the Congress or over the executive, I think that I'm not sure about that one. I think the interesting part where you're talking about is if the functionality has to be that impeachment process, that taking that to the logical conclusion means unless you can get an impeachment and a conviction in the House and the Senate, that means gloves off for the president. I mean, president can do whatever they want. If the president wants to round up their political enemies and put them in prison, unless the House and the Senate impeach and convict, it doesn't matter.
Because it seems like what they're really concerned
That's
about
scary.
is the judiciary becoming this kind of wrench in the operations of the executive because they don't like them, and that we found that there's judges out there that just don't like Trump. So can you now just throw wrenches
And some on
into
the other end,
this?
some on the other end, there's an argument, there can be an argument made that Eileen Cannon in Georgia Florida is being way too deferential on some things. Right now, she's taking a ruling where there are classified information and lists of government witnesses. She wants to release those to the public because nothing has ever happened to witnesses against Donald Trump in court cases after their names are public. We know for certain nothing has happened to poll workers in Georgia because of names being public. So there's some questions there too. So Spencer, do you think we're going to get to a point where the president can only be held criminally responsible if that president is impeached and convicted in Congress? That other than that, they are extrajudicial.
I think that's what it was intended. I think our founding fathers had enough foresight to see that judges could cause a problem in this area, whichever side of the line they fall on. So they decided that, listen, we want the people's representatives determining this, and once they make the determination, then the judiciary can step in and impose the consequences.
I like that.
So that's my opinion on it. I want to get your opinion on it, and I really appreciate you guys. You have a good day.
Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate the call.
Yeah,
call was
again.
great. Hey, we all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented, non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to Natural Grocers. Grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial with no strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Ron, you're up right next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, let's go to Ron. Ron, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning. Thank you for taking me. I wonder how quickly Jenna is going to run behind Phil Weiser's skirts to hide from people looking at how much money was spent.
I know.
That's a good point.
You know, I was looking. Phil Weiser has not released a statement yet. Jenna Griswold did. She was out there very quick.
Someone hasn't written it for him yet.
I know.
He has shot intended.
I know, and maybe let Jenna go out and take the shots on this one. But
how much
Mike,
money was spent on this thing?
You
Is
know,
that a misdemeanor or a felony using state funds
right?
for personal gain?
And they not only did this, they did it with Jack Phillips. They did it with 303 Creative. An enterprising journalist should look into this. Someone like Jimmy Sengenberger. Maybe we'll float that idea to him.
I'm reading Jefferson's autobiography right now, and in it, he was talking about how he felt Hamilton's acts were dominated by a desire for government to control by privileged few.
Yeah, no, that was definitely Jefferson.
In fact, he was Hamilton was pushing for a king, titles, ruled by a central executive and aristocratic aides, rather than by representatives of the.
There's nothing new under the sun. Ron, thanks for the call. Friends, it's been wonderful to be with you. All of this is on our YouTube channel or podcast, 710 KNUS. Up next, Charlie Kirk. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We will see you tomorrow, 710 KNUS.